9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Kick by Bass is up, and it is good.
I thought T-Bass getting T-Bass 2 kicks, one going each direction. He made them both. That's a positive.
Mike Danger.
They are a joke. They are an absolute joke.
Gene Battaglia.
This is where I slam on the brakes. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Every game is something that we want to win, and today we didn't do that. A lot to learn from. Again, it's the preseason. I know we're not game planning for these games, but we got to be ready to go.
Our standard was not out there today. That's not how we play. There's a lot that we need to do to get ourselves ready to go here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
A very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia, Rochester's only local sports talk show, and we're glad you're with us this afternoon. Reaction Monday to the first preseason game for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get to all of that. We have some great guests joining us, and you can pull up a stool at 866-4326-585 866-4FAN. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
And I think maybe I'm guilty, and a lot of people are guilty of this. You ever hear of selective memory? Why is it every time the preseason comes around? Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's not quality football.
No,
not at all.
Really hard to find good preseason action, even for a quarter. If you can, it's fleeting. It's like, oh, that looked good, or that looked different. Now, we could talk about different perspectives from Saturday's game, and I know that we're going to spend the majority of our time talking with the Bills.
Yeah, but can I compliment you and your team? Like, if you're going to say what is something to come out of that game, I mean, the play everybody was pointing out. This is the play you should get you and every Bears fan excited. A play you've never seen literally a Chicago quarterback make. You roll out to the right, 40 yards, boop, right on the dot.
Made it look easy.
Yeah. All right. How excited were you?
Now, more excited to see him slide when he was scrambling, right? Like, I just wanted everybody to get out of the game healthy. And where we were sitting, we were 5 rows behind the Bears bench. And I was spending time watching how he was interacting with his teammates. Justin Fields had this, he interacted with his teammates, but you could tell he wasn't like a social guy. He wasn't somebody that was going to go around and crack jokes or smile with his teammates. Or look, he never looked like he was having fun.
I would say the opposite of being something you would look for is Kyler Murray, where he has the puss face. He's sitting by himself, just me first.
Right. I could never. It's funny you brought that up. Like, I could never imagine hearing Caleb Williams give a press conference like Kyler Murray did to defend what he is in the NFL by going through all of his accolades from high school through college and as a professional. Like, that doesn't seem like that's the kind of thing that's in Caleb Williams' DNA, just from the small little bit that we know about him so far as a professional. But I'm not here to say the Bears are back. I'm not here to say Caleb Williams is the next Peyton Manning. We don't know. It's one preseason game. We're not going to overreact to it, but you're right. Seeing that play, seeing him scramble and slide, good. You're smart. You're using your head. You know that this is a meaningless preseason game. You'll live to fight another day.
How about under pressure? Okay, flip to the running back.
Right.
There you go. I mean, there were things like, whoa, this kid looks like something you could work with.
He looked all right. And for what it's worth, Josh Allen and the Bills looked all right. I mean, they get into the red zone and they kind of get stifled a little bit there. Look, we'll get to all of this. First, let's set the table here because we got a lot to get to. And a couple of our favorites joining us this afternoon to react to Saturday's preseason home opener against the Bears. Ryan Talbot covering the Bills for NewYorkUpstate.com. Will be stopping by at 425.
Yeah, so Ryan spent his Saturday out at Orchard Park, so we'll get Ryan's thoughts here as not only for that, Danger, but we look ahead to this week. Different sort of week where the Bills are actually traveling on a Wednesday, joint practice on a Thursday, preseason game on a Saturday night. And, oh, by the way, they're down to one healthy quarterback. We'll get to all this.
Yeah, Nate Geary, the Buffalo Bills Radio Network, will stop by later this hour. Give us like 20 minutes or so, and Geary will give us his thoughts on what he saw out of the Buffalo Bills on Saturday. We appreciate you checking us out on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. We're streaming on Twitch as well. And, of course, you can hear us in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And I guess later this week we might even be streaming video on X.
On X, so that would leave us one platform short. We're until our favorite number.
We're trying to get to that magic number.
9 times.
Maybe sooner rather than later we will get there, but no shortage of ways for you to digest the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 here on The Fan Rochester. You heard the game on Saturday on The Fan Rochester, and what you heard, if you're a Bills fan, was largely disappointing, but it is the preseason. And if you're going to make the mistakes that the Bills were making, this is the time to do it. They were the first ones to point out quickly after the game, hey, look, there's no game planning that goes into these games. Matchups aren't a thing. We don't worry about matchups. There's no game planning. We're just out there, executing what's being called and trying to make plays. And on Saturday, the Bills just didn't make enough of those plays.
Yeah, I hear you, but executing, there's no excuse for 8 pre-snap penalties. 11 penalties overall, Danger. And yes, sometimes these happen later in the games, and the game really kind of spiraled away from the Buffalo Bills. I thought part of it was, hey, this is Chicago's second preseason game compared to Buffalo's first, but hey, who from the starters played in Chicago that game in the Hall of Fame? Not too many. So that only goes for a certain extent. I thought the lines, both sides, that's the concern here. Josh Allen looked fine. Shakir looked fine. Keon Coleman, okay, you caught a ball, that's fine. I thought the offensive line couldn't get anything going for a run game early, and the defensive line, couldn't get things done. Ed Oliver, what did he play? One play?
One play.
One play.
Yeah, one play, knee injury. Why risk it? Stay off. He was cleared to return, did not return. Josh Allen plays literally a quarter in the middle of a drive, gets yanked. Now, is there some debate on whether or not he was benched or he got pulled? I mean, he scrambled, he slides, he slides into, it was Samuel, I think he slid into. And, Allen, this is the Josh Allen experience, right? He can be a little bit reckless with his body and the bodies of others.
This wasn't anything. If it's a normal game, okay, there's the first down, let me take it, slide, but the preseason, what are we doing taking off for anything? So we'll ask our guest coming up, was that McDermott, because you're pulling the plug on that a little early, because normally then they say a quarter, it's kind of like they let you finish out the drive, right. And that wasn't the case.
Well, to hear Josh Allen say after the game he was hoping he could finish off the drive, wanted to finish off the drive, but also going to listen to what coach tells him to do. You mentioned the run game. It was putrid, 77 yards, 3 yards a carry. And if you eliminate the quarterback runs and scrambles, it was a total of 36 yards for just under 1.9 yards a carry for the Bills' run game. And a big part of that, and in good news today, Ty Johnson returning to practice for the Buffalo Bills today. Ray Davis has a ways to go, obviously. 5 carries, just 2 yards. For Ray Davis. Yeah,
not all of it's on Ray Davis. Again, the offensive line, this was not their best game. But I want to skip ahead to the news of today here. So if you were listening earlier to One Bills Live, they came through the news. Shane Buechele, neck injury. No idea when this happened during the game. Obviously, he finished out, but not only is he not going to be available this week, who knows? That might be the last we see of Shane Buechele.
It kind of felt like the moment was too big for him. Like it was moving a little bit faster than he could process. The game didn't really come to him at all.
Right. So you could say, it's the third string quarterback. Who cares? Like, yeah, you know what? You want to at least get the guys the ball and just work on things. You never know. And then on top of that, Mitchell Trubisky excused today for personal reasons, which, okay, that's kind of vague. Don't know if that's going to carry over to tomorrow, this week, or if he's just back tomorrow. But that left Josh Allen the lone quarterback today in practice. So, like Danger, we have a preseason game Saturday night. And the suggestion box is open, as it sounds like the Buffalo Bills need to bring in a quarterback.
If you want to make everybody feel better about the Bills' lot in life this preseason, there's really one answer and one answer only.
What, Matt Barkley?
Master!
He's available.
Bring back Peterman.
Okay.
Bring back Peterman. Do it, you cowards. Do it. For the preseason. Do it.
The preseason quarterback, the third-string quarterback, I know we're saying this as a joke.
Yeah.
However, just to be in the room and to talk football and do all those football-y things.
The thing is, he doesn't know Joe Brady's offense. He was here when Dayball was here.
That's
and
true.
Dorsey was here.
And Matt Barkley doesn't know Joe Brady's offense, does he?
I don't
think he was here last year.
I don't think so. I'm not sure. That one that's a good question to ask Talbot. There's a list of guys that are out there and available, and right away you'll hear, "Whoa, Ryan Tannehill is still out there." It's like, no, come on. I mean,
Ryan Tannehill is not coming here to be the third string. Now, if you want to say, well, he'd be an upgrade over to Trubisky, I'd listen to that. However, you can't. Is this where you want to spend your reserves here? Your limited dollars.
You're invested in Trubisky already, so you're really looking for somebody who can just go out there and execute for the final 2 preseason games to get you to week 1. I don't think Josh Allen should play on Saturday. I think if you've got a joint practice on Thursday and you've got a controlled environment, Josh Allen can get all the reps that he needs in that controlled environment against Pittsburgh's defense during that joint practice. I don't want to see Josh Allen on Saturday. That's me. I would prefer to just see Mitch Trubisky revenge game. I would just prefer to see Mitch Trubisky show up against Pittsburgh on Saturday, and then whoever they bring in this week to be that third-string quarterback with Buechele going down, can close out the game. But I don't think you need to see Josh Allen against Pittsburgh on Saturday night.
No, but then that's it. I mean, to me, that Carolina game, like I thought the atmosphere, you were there. I thought watching it came through okay on television. We have to kind of think to where we were, as here in Western New York. There was a time 10 years ago where the final preseason game was the Lions, and the stadium, 30 to 40,000, it's half empty. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, how was it on Saturday?
I thought it was great. It wasn't a sellout, obviously, but it was fun, and it was special for me. I got to bring my teenage daughter, 15-year-old Lexi, to her first NFL experience, and she'd never, she'd watch games, obviously, never been to a game, so we did a little tailgating. I wore the Peterman as we were tailgating.
Wow.
Somebody came up, Peterman! Peter started screaming Peterman. He came over and started chatting us up. And, clearly it had a few at his tailgate. And Lexi was like, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, he's probably just happy. He's had a couple of beers. He's ready for some football. And we get into the stadium, and I show her and her friend to their seats. And they're sitting with a coworker of ours, so I know that they're going to be in good shape. I wanted to sit on the other side of the Bears side of the field, to be behind the Bears bench. And she said that the entire game she was sitting next to a woman who was into it, like really, really into the game.
Should you be really into it for a preseason game, though?
I was into it, but I wasn't, screaming, cheering full throat.
Yeah, I think you can be like, hey, but you're there to kind of evaluate. I don't know how you could have like any passion that to where you're screaming your head off,
right,
for the defense or whatever.
So her conclusion is that the NFL might not be her football game. She prefers Sabre games, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. She likes when I take her to Sabres games, but the fandom at Highmark was a little too intense for her. It was more than she expected. And all I could think to myself was, well, yeah, you go to a Sabres game and there's no expectation. Everything is chill. There's nobody that, we're so apathetic about that organization now that you're not screaming and yelling the way you would scream at a Bills. There's an expectation that comes with going to a Bills game.
Right. That totally makes sense. Did you explain it that way to her?
Well, I didn't explain it to her, but I also think as she gets older and matures, she'll be okay. She'll want to go to more NFL games because they're fun and they're a great experience. And, man, we had a great time. And I actually, wearing the Peterman as I'm walking through the concourse, there was another guy that stopped me. He's yelling, Peterman! And I stopped. I turned around. He's like, come here. I'm like, Yeah. He's like, I'm friends with Nathan Peterman. You got to let me take a picture of your jersey. And I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know, man. I mean, like, this is DJ Moore's number. It's the number 2. It's not even Peterman's number from when he was in Chicago. He's like, it's okay. I gotta show him that somebody's wearing his jersey at a Bills game, even though it's a Bears jersey. So he took a picture, supposedly friends with Nathan Peterman, sent it to Nathan Peterman. Oh, that's good. Poor guy's looking for a job. Wonder where he could land next.
Well, if the Bills are shopping at the 5 and dime for quarterbacks, here's some other names that are available. Any of these strike you? Brian Hoyer, Blaine Gabbert, A.J. McCarron is available once again.
Yes. Seattle Battlehawks. No, St. Louis Battlehawks.
We have Trevor Siemian available. Whoever Logan Woodside is, he was a backup last year in Atlanta. And here's a name. Actually, I want this guy. Like New York, they can have their guy down with the Giants and everything. We can have Ben DiNucci.
Hey! Of course they're going to sign Ben DiNucci.
Because
he's Italian!
They could have their Tommy DeVito. We have Ben DiNucci.
We got Benny Cutlets over here. Hey! Ben DiNucci. Do any of those names inspire greatness? No. And most of those guys probably still want the opportunity to battle for a backup role. And I don't think you're going to get that here.
No, you're coming in and you're basically, all right, do you want the snaps here to show everybody on tape? Is that an overrated thing, by the way? Like the sales pitch, like, hey, if you play with us, there's going to be some tape on you out there.
Hoyer is doing broadcasting. He's part of the Patriots crew on the TV side. So I think he's set. I don't think he's going to be somebody you would consider. We mentioned Tannehill. He's going to want to be at least a backup. Probably thinks he can still start. And I think Siemian falls in that category as well. Somebody that at least views himself as a backup. You might have to make – I'm telling you, Gino, it wouldn't be the craziest thing. And we joke and we laugh. He's not making the team, but somebody who's got a high football IQ, somebody who knows the head coach, somebody who knows the starting quarterback. You could do worse than Nathan Peterman for the third string quarterback position that now finds itself open for the rest of the preseason.
This is his 8th season. 8 years in this league.
Yep. He's just sticking around. We'll see. We'll see what the Bills decide to do there. That's something that we'll have to monitor here. I'm pulling for that. And not in a facetious way. I think that actually makes sense. I think that's something that, hey, look, you know what it is. You know who he is. You know what he's capable of and what he's not. You know what his shortcomings are, obviously. But you just need somebody that can go out there and deliver the ball, execute the offense.
I would actually say Barkley or McCarron. Here's why. Because remember, with the new rule now, you could have somebody on the practice squad, your third quarterback, and if you want to elevate him, that doesn't count against the game day 47 there. So they'll let you keep the 3 quarterbacks active. And in case you do find yourself in a situation where Josh may be 50-50, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? I do think it's important to have a quarterback on the practice squad, Danger, as just in case of an emergency. That guy, I'm sorry, like it wasn't going to be Bouchel. Maybe this injury was a blessing in disguise for both Bouchel and the Buffalo Bills because he's not ready for this.
Barkley has some age on Peterman, right?
Barkley is 33. Peterman is 30.
Yeah. Well, the hope is that we never have to worry about seeing those guys. But Barkley has a relationship with Allen as well. I think those two are pretty tight, and that would make some sense.
Yeah, does Allen pick up the phone? Hey, come on back. Buddy.
Do they run it by Allen?
I'll give you a Bitcoin there.
Other observations from Saturday. Not a great showing for a couple of wide receivers who are battling for a roster spot, one being MVS. A clear drop that would have resulted in a first down during the 2-minute drill there in the first half. And KJ Hamler muffing a kickoff, too. Hated to see that.
Scantling not looking good, all that. So, Shavers, nobody really said this is my position, right? That's all you're hoping for. Just become whatever we saw at Fisher. Did it translate over to week 1? And the answer is no across the board.
Bright spot, if you're looking for one, we're not talking about Tyler Bass today. We were worried about that, right? That was something we were worried about. Like, oh boy, Do the Bills have a Tyler Bass problem? When we last heard from Sean McDermott at the end of training camp, he was pumping up the tires of Tyler Bass. And we know the kind of season he had last year versus the kind of seasons we've come to expect. I can tell you that the stadium was windy. I mean, those flags were blowing in every different direction at the top of the stadium. And so it was windy in there, and I think that affected some passes, and it certainly it affected Sam Martin's punts. Maybe it affected Mitch Trubisky's accuracy because he missed a wide-open Quentin Morris in the end zone. Kind of wish he could have that throw back. But with field goals, it was Bass going 2 for 2, one of them being a 49-yarder. So we're not having that conversation today, and hopefully we're not having that conversation at all this season.
You file it away, put it to the back burner, and I thought that was going to be something that we might be talking about had he missed one kick. But, look, two field goals made, didn't have an opportunity to kick anything else, really.
Yeah. And Khalil Shakir, steady as she goes. 3 targets, 3 receptions, had some nice yards after the catch as well. He may never drop a football ever again. He just catches everything.
Are you ready to come around? I feel like I'm the only person out there that says Shakir will lead the team in receptions and yards.
I'm still on Kincaid. I still think it's Kincaid. But you like what you see out of Khalil Shakir. The ball goes in and it doesn't come out. He does a great job. And he looked good on Saturday in that small sample size, albeit. Bills' next action coming up Saturday night in primetime. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the joint practices this week in Pittsburgh, and no Shane Buechele, so the Bills are on the hunt for a third body at quarterback that they can get out on the field in time for this weekend. Next up in the sports bar, we check in with Nate Geary. You hear him through the regular season on Buffalo Bills Radio Network. He'll stop by with his thoughts on Saturday's preseason loss to the Bears. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia, the Fan Rochester.
Sports Update.
In need of a third-string quarterback as Shane Buechele of Buffalo out with a neck injury today. Breaking news in the sports bar, the Bills are signing quarterback Ben DiNucci.
Because he's Italian!
Mitchell Trubisky excused from today's practice for personal reasons, leaving Josh Allen as the only healthy quarterback. Head coach Sean McDermott says coming off Saturday, there is room for improvement.
We'll look at the film, obviously, and it'll hit us right in the face in terms of what we didn't do well, and that was a big.
Bills traveling to Pittsburgh on Wednesday for the joint practice on Thursday. Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network, joining us next year in the sports bar. Rochester Red Wings off tonight. They're back home for the week beginning tomorrow night. Syracuse, the opponent. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
There is something wrong with us that we're getting excited about the signing of Ben DiNucci. Hey, it's a Ben DiNucci. I mean, now we have something to watch for this preseason like we didn't before. Oh, Ben DiNucci.
Now Ben DiNucci.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh.
Our
Saturday
paisan.
night, yeah.
We welcome in Nate Geary, the Buffalo Bills Radio Network. Ben DiNucci, third-string quarterback. Reaction.
Well, listen, every year we usually get that fourth camp body that, I think I was listening to Sal like last week. I think he was filling in on the afternoon show. And they were doing this exercise where they were going through all of the preseason passing attempts since Josh Allen has been drafted. And some of the names might surprise you, like at one point, Jordan Palmer, the year before Josh Allen was drafted, Jordan Palmer threw passes in the last preseason game. So I was sort of waiting for a celebrity name to be signed here towards the end of preseason that could just log minutes. And thank God they gave us the football gods gave us Ben DiNucci. Unfortunately for him, he's going to be sacrificed to the Lambs, unfortunately.
Yeah. Pittsburgh coming up. Before we get to Pittsburgh, the Chicago Bears game on Saturday, Nate. It is preseason. Where do you come down on this?
I come down on this like I would a scrimmage. And at most scrimmages that I've ever played in any sport, baseball, basketball, football, they usually have a time clock, but very rarely do they have, scores because they don't matter. I view the game similarly. I think the one thing that I kind of left as I rewatched it over the weekend, where I was like, I just didn't really love the performance was on the offensive line, especially in the run game. They just could really get nothing going. And then I started following some tweets here and there, and Eric Washington, Bill's former assistant head coach and defensive line coach, is the defensive coordinator for Chicago. And it looked like he was running some pretty aggressive stunts against this Bills offensive line, and it definitely was clear that the Bills were not ready for that sort of situation. So it's very possible they got, set up for failure a little bit in a preseason game. It's not that it's, against the rules or anything, but most teams are just going to go out there and run vanilla stuff and, pack it up and see you next week. But the Bears came out and they did some stuff on the defensive line that I think Bills offensively weren't prepared for, and I think it stifled their run game a little bit. I would like to see them look better on the offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Josh Allen does not play the rest of the preseason, but they throw the ones out there, the offensive line, and James Cook for the first drive or something next week to try to just put some good film out there because the running game just did not look the way that I know I was expecting a Joe Brady run attack to look.
It's so funny,
starting the year.
Nate, you mentioned that, and then if you go back and listen to the comments made post-game, I mean, there was a lot of, hey, there's no game planning in this game. We don't game plan for this opponent. It was almost as if they were angry that Washington maybe did do a little game planning, maybe did exploit what he knew to be some weaknesses on that Bills offensive line.
Yeah, I think the more you watched it, especially the first quarter and a half, I would say I agree. And considering that was kind of the topic of conversation post-game, it felt like that resonated a little bit. But again, I think largely, it was like 19-6 going into the fourth quarter. It's not like it was 33-0 and then, they arrested everybody and they got up early on them and it was a rout. Shane Bichelle did not look particularly good. Mitch Trubisky didn't look particularly good. So I was actually surprised, Ben DiNucci being the move. I thought that they might try to go out and go maybe add a guy to actually compete with Mitch Trubisky. I just think listen, it doesn't matter who they put in there. If Josh Allen's hurt, season's over. So it kind of doesn't matter. But, Trubisky did not look good in Pittsburgh when they had signed him 2 years ago away from the Bills in his, early time. And then obviously, lost the job to Kenny Pickett. But he just doesn't really do it for me. So I was surprised we didn't hear maybe a bigger name than Ben. DiNucci is going to be on the roster till, when? Till cuts? I don't really see him being the number 3 long term, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're talking Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network. You also hear him on WGR. One more thing for me from Saturday, Nate, and just curious, because when they say, we'll give him a quarter worth, usually that's kind of rough. You get to finish out the drive there. Josh Allen didn't get to finish out the drive. What are your thoughts on? Wait a second, they pulled him right there after he ran the ball there for first down.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like when you're a kid and your mom or your dad yell at you and say, you do that one more time and we're going home. And Josh Allen ran, and it was almost like when he slid, he got up, he was a little hobbly when he got up. I think I could read Sean McDermott's body language in that moment. Said, nope, you're going home. You're done. You're done. We're done. You're going home. That was the vibe I got. It was like, all right, yeah, we're not going to have you out here scrambling and running around. This was, make a couple of throws, move the football, maybe get into a scoring position. Let's run some red zone offense. But that first quarter ended after that slide and that run, and Sean just pulled the rug right underneath Josh Allen. And frankly, I was even surprised to see Josh out there in the first place. I know there's some new pieces. It's technically a new offense. So I'm sure that there was some desire from both the coaching staff and Josh Allen to get out there, get a little, get some reps under them in live. They're going to get a lot of that this week in the joint practices against the Steelers. So yeah, it was, hey, we told you no running, and when you run, we're pulling you. And I think he got the trigger there.
Yeah, Nate, I'm on the record as saying, look, if Josh Allen is in a joint practice with the Steelers and is in a controlled environment, he's getting reps in those practices, I don't need to see him Saturday night, and I don't think I need to see him against Carolina either. Have we seen the last of Josh Allen this preseason?
Yeah, I think so. It maybe wouldn't surprise me if they also wanted just to maybe shake off what was, I think generally speaking, team-wide, a pretty lackluster performance last week. But I could also see them saying, like, hey, let's just get to the regular season. Let's be healthy. It's going to be a more intense practice environment this week in joint practices, which we haven't really seen under Sean McDermott since that Carolina joint practice a couple of years ago, and then Oliver's rookie season. So I think that ramp up, and to your point, in that controlled environment, gives them maybe some more game situation looks, and in a controlled environment where they don't have to worry about Josh Allen trying to truck a linebacker or, find a place to slide. So, I would genuinely be surprised if we see Josh Allen in the preseason again this year.
Our guest, Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network. As Nate, I think the philosophy, they wouldn't say it, but the way I look at how they treat a wide receiver is, all right, let's just kind of throw a bunch of things up against the wall and hopefully something sticks. I don't know. Is anything sticking right now coming out of that game? I mean, I don't want to overreact to one game, but Shavers or MVS or KJ Hamler, we haven't seen Chase Claypool. I mean, could the Buffalo Bills actually, when it comes down to cutdown day, kind of take a look around the league and say, you know what, maybe there is something better than what we've got right now on the back end?
I think they absolutely could do that. And I think the guy that I'm starting to think more and more could be on the outside looking in is MVS. He just has not really stood out, the drop issues. And, there was some talk towards the end of last season, if you follow Kansas City Twitter at all, that he just didn't have the fastball anymore. Like his fastball was the guy could run past people and be a deep threat. And some of that top end speed looks like it had diminished a little bit. And if he's going to be dropping the ball down the field where the only place that he's really going to be able to have an impact in this offense, I think Shavers is borderline a lock at this point. And if you are looking at your group and saying, we don't really love Claypool, but we don't love MVS either, let's see who might shake free at the end of training camp and see if we can't find a younger guy on the up and coming. I even think someone like a Treylon Burks, right? Like, could he potentially be on the outside looking into Tennessee? They completely remade their wide receiver room this offseason. They go out, they get Calvin Ridley, they signed Tyler Boyd, and he's a former first-round pick. And is it a player like that the Bills could potentially say, hey, we'll part with a third, fourth-round pick and maybe go for a reclamation project if they're just not getting what they want out of this room? But I thought, Keon looked, very limited reps. They get 3 targets, 1 catch in the game. I'm definitely excited about what the role is in store for Curtis Samuel. I think he's going to be a guy that they look to get to the ball or get the ball quickly, get the ball to Josh Allen's hands and get him in space. And I think Khalil Shakir is really set for a breakout year. If you're kind of on the outside looking in Buffalo, he might still be a name that you say, Khalil Shakir, okay, yeah, he had a couple of good games last year, that great play against Pittsburgh in the playoffs. But otherwise, is this a player that, people are really thinking is going to be a real contributor? Guys, I think it's very possible from the wide receiver group that Khalil Shakir could lead this team in targets and receptions. He is, I think, by far their best weapon after the catch. And he showed that in flashes again. He just is a hard worker. He's always in the right place. Easy guy to root for. I think that it's a big season's in store for Khalil Shakir.
In the limited time that we saw them in the first quarter, there was a lot of Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, a lot of that 12 personnel. Do you still get the sense that that's kind of how they want to operate here when we do get to the regular season, Nate?
I do. I think it's their position of strength. I think that, Ken Dorsey really just did not do – they go out and they draft Dalton Kincaid and they re-sign Dawson Knox the year prior. And, all they talked about last offseason was 12 personnel. And then it went out there and it's like there was just no organized plan. And I think this year – you're going to see Dalton Kincaid lining up in the slot more. It's going to be 12 personnel, but it'll essentially be 11 big. And I think you'll see a lot of that. And listen, I think Dawson Knox, if he can stay healthy, will have a significantly bigger impact on the offense that he did last year. Just the injury early on, and then obviously once he went out and they sort of started figuring out how to use Dalton Kincaid, I think that Knox has real value, especially in the red zone. Him and Josh Allen have a good rapport. He's good in those scramble drill plays where Josh Allen sort of breaks contain and, finds the sidelines. He's good at those. So I think you're going to see a lot of Knox and a lot of Kincaid together on the field at the same time. But I think you can view it as more of a modified, like big 11 personnel more than like standard 12.
Well, if they're going to run more 12, you would really need a third tight end on this team. And if I'm doing the exercise, pick the 53 as you have, Nate, the thing I get stuck on is who's the third tight end on this team? Is it Morris or is it Davidson?
It's going to be, to me, how much they value special teams, because I do think that Q is probably one of their better, if not their best special teams player and contributor. All we've heard for the last, 6 months about the rules, the kickoff rules, and there is some, at least, initial data that suggests it is going to be a bit of a game changer in terms of average starting field position, average, amount of kick returns per game. If those all go up, you're going to want guys that you can trust and rely on. And I like Zach Davidson a lot. He's a big player. 6'7", big body, sure hands, got that athleticism. But Q is a guy that I think has earned the respect of his teammates by being a really hard worker and a guy that they can trust on a lot of special teams, not just kickoff and kick return, but in punt and punt block and a lot of these other special teams core units. So I think Davidson would have to not only be head above heels better than Quentin Morris on the offensive side of the ball as their third tight end, but he would also have to show that he's a game changer in special teams. And I think that's just really where Quentin Morris is going to be a difficult guy to bump off this roster as the third tight end.
And where do you come down on the return game there with the new kickoff rule and with punt returns? We saw KJ Hamler muff a kickoff. We know that Daquan Hardy is also in the mix. Do you think they get younger with Hardy and keep a guy that they drafted basically for this role, or do you think Hamler's experience could play a role here and actually land him on the roster?
Yeah, man. Could you have picked listen, we know how Sean McDermott generally is about, guys that, struggle holding onto the football. I mean, he basically put James Cook, who ran for 1,000 yards last year, in the penalty box for half a season, his rookie season, for fumbling his first touch. Not the timing to be the guy that they're giving the first look in the kick return situations and to muff a kick. Not what you want if you're KJ Hamler trying to carve a full-time role on this team, especially because it doesn't really the fit offensively doesn't really stand out to me as a guy that you can find unique ways, creative ways to get him the ball. That was a tough play for him and might be a tough one for him to overcome in the long run. Because again, they draft Hardy. He's a guy that I think has elite level quickness and speed. But he's a rookie, and we'll see if they can trust him in those situations and end up going with that. I would generally be more surprised to not see Ty Johnson back there. I think that's Ty Johnson's job. I think you want more of a running back with a little bit of physicality to him than you do like a wide receiver. And I think that's where you're going to see across the league is guys that play running back that have good vision, that are used to the ball in their hands, get a lot of the nods over guys that are the smaller wide receiver types that are more straight line speed. I think speed matters, but I think vision is going to be the thing that ends up being the most valuable piece to these kick returners with the new additions to the kickoff role.
We're talking to Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network. Nate, entering the week, this was like a big topic, and I still think it is a huge topic. It's just it wasn't relevant much to Saturday's outcome, but the safety position and the idea that there isn't much behind right now Taylor Rapp and DeMar Hamlin, and I don't know if we really are all that confident in those two guys being the starters now at this point. So what's your overall feeling right now at the safety position as they're waiting for a couple guys to get back here?
Boy, doesn't it feel like DeMar Hamlin's going to be the day one starter? I mean,
yeah.
It feels like it's going to be him and Taylor Rapp. And, listen, I think there are some athletic limitations with DeMar Hamlin, but I think that he did a lot for himself filling in for Micah Hyde 2 years ago. And I think there's a level of trust this coaching staff, Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, are going to have that he is going to be, whether or not he's got athletic limitations, whether or not, maybe he's on the smaller side and the build-wise, that he's a guy that they know at the end of the day he's going to be in position to make a play. Even if he doesn't make it, he'll be there to do it. And I feel the same way about Cam Lewis. Like if they had to go to Cam Lewis, that they trust he'll be in the position to make a play, even if maybe the athleticism isn't where they want it to be in terms of starting caliber player. Not only do I think, guys, that DeMar Hamlin's going to be the starting safety day one, I think it's going to be really hard to take it away from him. I think that Mike Edwards really needed time in this preseason and training camp to gel, to become a guy that they could trust, even though he's a veteran. Him and Cole Bishop both missing the extended time they're missing, and especially with Edwards, who did not play and missed all of OTAs with an injury that was lingering. It just puts them in a position where, what are they going to throw him out there in the last preseason game? And like the time on task that was going to be required to be the starter next to Taylor Rapp has just by nature of injury gone all to DeMar Hamlin. And I think that ends up being more valuable than draft position or versatility in the case of Mike Edwards. So I think for me, DeMar Hamlin's your day one starter with Taylor Rapp. And I think it's going to be short of injury. It's going to be that way for I think a pretty large portion of the season.
Nate, was there anybody else that stood out to you, offense or defense? I've been watching Dwayne Carter throughout the course of camp and watched him a little bit, and I thought, all right, nice game. And Dwayne Carter is somebody that we get the sense that they're going to want to lean in as part of that rotation on the defensive line. Were there any names that stood out to you in what was overall a lackluster performance by the team, but some decent individual performances?
I'll give you a name, Jamarcus Ingram. They're right now slotted as their fourth corner and might be right there on the outside of the roster bubble, might be one of the last guys to make the team because he's sort of that last perimeter corner. He showed, and he's shown this in practice a couple of times, that he's a physical player at the line of scrimmage. There's a highlight from the game where he just absolutely bullies the wide receiver standing across from him, puts him on the ground in a jam-up situation. The coaching staff has talked him up for the last year and a half. Obviously, was on the practice squad 2 years ago and last year. And as a guy that I think Sale has talked a lot about as being a guy, it's like, okay, like I think you like who they have in their top three with Elam and Douglas and Benford, but he's sort of an unknown. Ingram hasn't been a guy that's played a lot in the league, and you lose Dane Jackson, and for everything that Dane lacked as an every down player, you knew exactly what the bare minimum you were going to get from Dane. He wasn't going to give up big plays, and he was going to be in the right spot defensively. And if they can trust him to do that, Ingram, to be that same type of trustworthy player that he's going to be in the right spot at the right time to make plays, he's going to have a big special teams role on this team, but a physical player. And I think that was good to see. I liked what I saw a lot from Jamarcus Ingram, and that's a guy that I think is trending upwards for sure.
Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network, back at it coming up Saturday night, Pittsburgh. Nate, when we get to this time of year, I don't want to wish the summer away. I want to enjoy every minute we have here, but funny how we kind of forget the quality of the play in preseason. This is nothing really new, and anybody that is upset about what you saw from a Buffalo Bills standpoint, I mean, get over it. Things are going to be better here.
And get it out of your system. If you're the Bills, especially in the NFL, it's like nobody wants to play in these games anymore. I think it's going to be a pretty big bargaining chip for the players when they want to add this 18th game of, maybe not eliminating the preseason altogether, but I thought we did this, during COVID, getting through that season and kind of everyone agreeing we don't need this anymore. And so I think when this 18th game gets negotiated for that, dramatic cut down, maybe more of these joint practices, less of these true game situations, maybe one tune-up game where you get some of these guys an opportunity to get through pregame, feel the warm-ups, the week of a game, what that feels like. But yeah, like we talked about at the beginning, Ira, it's like I don't see Josh playing again. And if you are just basically throwing out backups, what is the true value there? Yeah, there's some evaluation that'll go on. Other teams will be able to watch some fringe roster players play up against other fringe roster players, and maybe that's enough to get a guy a job somewhere else. But I think the preseason has really lost a lot of its value, at least from a consumer perspective. And it's very clear to me that the league just does not take it very seriously either. And if no one's taking it seriously, then what are we? Listen, I mean, we're sports talk radio guys. We've got time to fill, so we're going to talk about it. But man, I think putting any weight into it, losing sleep, is just that's something I'm not going to subscribe to.
I, for one, cannot wait to see Ben DiNucci on the preseason field.
Guys, what number is Ben DiNucci wearing?
Ooh.
What are we thinking? 19? It's got to be ugly. 19.
I think last we saw he was wearing a 6 in Denver, I want to say.
Ugh, yeah. Well, Sam Martin's got that, so he's locked out, right? Or does Sam Martin have 9? 8.
Is Martin a Niner?
I don't know. Is there any number for DiNucci? Are they going to have to double up numbers for him?
Ooh, double number. Oof.
You see that, though. That is Martin's an 8.
Martin's an 8. Okay. Listen, I love 19 because I think it's so ugly that at least somebody will talk about him. Wow, look at that quarterback wearing 19.
If we're going to go down this road, can we all agree that 66 on Connor McGovern, it just looks right for the center of the Buffalo Bills?
Definitely. I like double up numbers. 22 on Ray Davis looks good. Saran Neal had 33 for a long time. Love that number. I just love Matt Cabbage with 44. I'm a big double number guy. So I was 11 myself. That was my number growing up. So I'm just a double up number kind of guy.
Yeah. Let's see. Hamler is 19 right now.
Shoot.
You have only 2 numbers, and you're not going to hand out 12. Actually, you can't. That's retired. 15.
Yep.
He's got to be 15.
Oh, that's even worse than 19. Yeah, give him 15. Give him 15. That is aesthetically, it's vomit. Yeah. It's aesthetically vomit. Yeah.
Well, Nate, we're looking forward to it, and I appreciate you giving us some of your time this afternoon to kind of recap everything we saw on Saturday. We'll be checking in with you throughout the course of the season as well. All right, bud?
Always, fellas. Looking forward to it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate.
There's Nate Geary. You can hear him on WGR, our Odyssey Sports sister station. It's part of the Buffalo Bills radio network as well.
What about 72? Like anybody can wear any number now. Go all the way, right?
Right.
Having a quarterback.
Quarterback still is limited, right? I think the quarterback still has to wear. I don't think you can see a quarterback wearing anything over 20.
Okay. Well, there's one choice.
Well,
That's
15.
yeah.
If 15 is the choice, then 15 is the choice. Ben DiNucci, welcome to the Buffalo Bills. You'll wear 15. You'll wear it proudly. Why? Because he's Italian.
Either that or Bouchel goes on injured reserve or waive injured, whatever, and give him. He was wearing number 6 before too, so
Okay.
that's another option.
That's right. It's almost. I feel like maybe the Bills listen to the sports bar. Hey, Pete Coelli, Ben DiNucci, everybody's happy because why? Because we're Italian. I can't wait. This is great news.
I love everybody tweeting in at us. Like, yes, we're aware. Yep, Italian. Michael writing in, yep, because he's Italian.
DiNucci's going to be out there sweating marinara sauce on Saturday night. I can't wait. Because he's Italian.
What's the Ilio DiPaolo's? That's the restaurant right down the road there, the former wrestler. You've never been to Ilio DiPaolo's. That's the big. Yeah, that's the big restaurant you go to.
In Pittsburgh?
No, in Buffalo.
Oh.
And the South Towns. You also have the other one that looks really gaudy there on Transit there.
Oh, the one that, yeah.
All the gardens.
The Rose Garden or whatever it is.
Like, bring them over there with all the statues and everything.
Yeah. We have the makings of a legend if this guy latches on in any way, shape, or form. Really appreciate Nate Geary stopping by and sharing his thoughts from Saturday's loss. Preseason week 1 is in the books, and now our site's focusing on week 2. Game Saturday night coming up here against the Steelers. Joint practices this week. We'll talk about that and more. Ryan Talbot of NewYorkUpstate.com stopping by the sports bar next hour. And I've got one more bright spot from Saturday that we have yet to discuss. And I've been pretty vocal about my disdain for a lot of the moves that the Buffalo Bills made this offseason, except for one. There was one move that they made that I'm like, you know what? That move actually makes a lot of sense and will probably work in their favor and pay dividends. And we saw it on Saturday, and it worked.
There's a report in baseball that there could be this radical change to the schedule in 2028. I'm going to tell you it's all a lie. Okay. Like you want to think this, that's fine, but this is what we call recency bias. Also, our week 1 selection here, Danger, like our slow rollout here. We're picking games every so often here. Think about this one here. It's the opening Friday night game. Green Bay, Philadelphia.
Oh, the Brazilian game.
The Brazilian game. We exported this game?
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll get your prediction on that. We'll both make a prediction on that one. And we'll dive into more with Ryan Talbot, more from Saturday with Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com. That's all coming up in the next few. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite. 9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
In need of a third quarterback, the Bills are signing former Dallas Cowboy Ben DiNucci. This according to DiNucci's agent. Shane Buechele is out with a neck injury. Today, Mitchell Trubisky excused from practice. That left only Josh Allen as the only healthy quarterback at practice. Allen, after the game on Saturday, talking about getting those reps.
I'm assuming I'm going to go into it saying I am going to get reps, and if coach says no, then it's no, and we move on. But just making sure that I have that mindset of I will be playing, but yeah, who knows?
Well, the Bills travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday. Joint practice with the Steelers coming up on Thursday. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. Some Bills football later this hour. Rochester Red Wings off tonight, but they're back home for the week. Syracuse coming to town beginning tomorrow. Yankees in Chicago to face the White Sox. Gene Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Kick by Bass is up, and it is good.
I thought T-Bass getting T-Bass 2 kicks, one going each direction. He made them both. That's a positive.
Mike Danger.
They are a joke. They are an absolute joke.
Gene Battaglia.
This is where I slam on the brakes. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Every game is something that we want to win, and today we didn't do that. A lot to learn from. Again, it's the preseason. I know we're not game planning for these games, but we got to be ready to go.
Our standard was not out there today. That's not how we play. There's a lot that we need to do to get ourselves ready to go here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
You know, we can spend a lot of time talking about whether or not the Bills have the same amount of talent on their roster as they had last year. We can talk about all of the off-season moves that they made, right or wrong. If there's one thing you as a Bills fan should take solace in, it's the fact that you are still, no matter how hard you might try, you're still not the New York Jets.
This story from today, and why is this all of a sudden blowing up today? Like, I would think this is back in March, okay? Hassan Reddick, great pass rusher for Philadelphia. He and Myles Garrett, by the way, Danger, the only two guys, last 4 years, at least 10 sacks in each of the last 4 years. Premier pass rusher in this league. He wants a new contract. Philadelphia decides, no, we really can't afford that. And I would think that they shop Hassan Reddick around. And the Jets trade for Hassan Reddick. Philadelphia only gets a third-round pick. Except, why? All of a sudden now he's going to go play for the Jets and he doesn't want a new contract? That just never gave him the new contract. So here we are from March to today, August 12th, that officially Hassan Reddick asking the Jets for a trade.
Yeah.
To which GM Joe Douglas has the PR department put out a statement saying, we've been clear all along with Hassan, we are not going to trade him.
Oh. Have you been clear with him that you're not going to pay him as well? Because I think that's really all that's holding this up. Can we get the guy in the field? Can we get him a new contract? Or is that, no, we're just not going to do that? Like, the contract is the contract. We're going to throw everything else. I mean, that's been the general assumption of any team that trades for a player who's looking for a new deal. You will give him the new deal.
That's why Brandon Ayuk is still kind of in this land
Right.
of limbo because nobody is willing to trade for him. Most teams wouldn't take this on, keeping their fingers crossed. Well, when he gets here, he's really going to like it. No, you got to negotiate this up front. If the Jets back in March had just said, okay, we'd like to do this, but can we talk to Hassan's representation? You know what? Philadelphia Eagles would have said, yes, go right ahead. We give you permission. Yeah, no, I don't think. Then you don't make the trade.
Right. If it's too rich for your blood, then you're out, right? The Ayuk thing is fascinating on many levels. The idea that, you know, there probably were teams that had the framework for a deal that San Francisco was ready to accept, but Ayuk not wanting to play in New England.
If I'm assessing the blame here, I mean, the blame on the Reddick thing, it's the Jets, okay?
Yes.
Clearly the Jets. The Ayuk thing, I think it's Ayuk's agent.
Yep. Bad representation. Well, we'll keep monitoring those two situations. They're kind of a mess, both of them. And I think with the case of the Niners, they're you know, Shanahan doesn't like this. It's a distraction. We don't need any of this. If you don't want to be here, get out of here. If you don't want, you know, if you can't swallow your pride and work for what we're offering, and you think you can get more somewhere else, good luck. Good luck out there. And with the Reddick thing, it's just insane. The Jets are still the Jets. Still the Jets. All the Aaron Rodgers propaganda.
No. Read the book, Danger.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a book coming out. Yes.
There's a book coming out, and he's making amends with mom and dad. And, boy, that's a real stand-up guy. He's blaming it on the ex-girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Olivia Munn.
Oh, really?
For making risque jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
I know too much about this already.
Well, I've been saying for the better part of this offseason that I haven't been a real big fan of many of the moves that have been made by the Buffalo Bills. And I get it. You're trying to be younger, but you look at the roster, and there's less talent on this roster, and there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of hope that X player will step up into this new role, or X draft pick will slide in, and we won't miss a beat. You know what? They hopefully will find their footing here over the course of the season. But my favorite move of the offseason, Gino, and I think you remember me saying this, my favorite move of the offseason was actually the one element of Saturday's preseason opener that went well for the Bills, bringing in officiating liaison John Perry in McDermott's ear. He goes 2 for 2 on challenges on Saturday, which was an area that he obviously needed to improve on. It would appear that the Bills will never lose a challenge again as long as John Perry is up there acting as the officiating liaison to Sean McDermott.
How much is John Perry making for this? Is it more than he was making as an official?
Had to have been.
How is the NFL kind of allowing this? There's tampering rules. The Bills can't go talk to a member of the Jets or anybody. That's called tampering. But what if, you're another team here? You're like, hey, next year, Cleat. Next year, you want to come over here and join the Giants here because we really could use somebody. Like you're setting them up maybe to get softer calls.
Yeah, it's a full-time job versus a part-time job. Now, most of these officials are lawyers or whatever they are in their real life, so money probably isn't the thing that they do it for.
But I've heard that the NFL pension is actually pretty good. You got to get the 3 years in, and you're in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be a better deal for John Perry.
Well, for John Perry, bravo. If there was a bright spot, and nobody cares when I'm right, but I thought, you know what? The move that they made this offseason that actually made sense and that we'll see improvement on immediately is bringing in John Perry to help with the officiating.
Well, McDermott, like most, alpha males, can be stubborn about some things, but you got to give him credit on this. Recognizing what was a weakness.
Yes.
What was a weakness.
It makes all the sense in the world, and I honestly think that this is going to improve how he does with challenges. He's been terrible with challenges throughout his entire coaching career. He's just been so wildly off. You need somebody like this saying, no, coach, we got one here. And both of those challenges, upon further review, they're incomplete passes. Good. You got it right. They got it wrong on the field. You got it right in the booth. And you challenged at the right time. And I want to say that if you get one of those challenges right, you get a third now, which is another reason why, if you're Sean McDermott, having John Perry in your ear is going to help you this year.
ESPN reporting there has been discussion in Major League Baseball about taking off a few weeks in 2028 around the Olympics, allowing players to play for their home country. Jeff Passan pushing this narrative would make it a shorter season. The report from Buster Olney says that the owners would want to have the Players Association give back some revenue to make this happen. There will be roughly 2 weeks of lost gate revenue and certainly less games and your TV partners. Danger, I'm trying to read this story with a straight face.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, it would be better to have Major League Baseball spotlight their sport. But if the clumsy NHL won't bother with the IOC, okay, this is nothing more than recency bias here, ESPN. We're talking about less money in the NHL compared to baseball than they would lose. Why would baseball owners even bother with this? Oh, by the way, the next World Baseball Classic, the one they created to kind of be like this, it's in 2026. Why would you give money to the IOC when you can keep it all yourself?
So this is nothing. And I kind of forgot that baseball isn't an Olympic sport.
It will be in 2028.
Right.
Though. Yeah.
And I think it'll be fine if the pros sit it out. I think it'll be fine if Major League Baseball continues simultaneously. I mean, it's not great for the game. You want to obviously see the game grow, and it would be a lot of fun to see. But we'll be fine.
Yeah, the thought here is like the Olympics when they come around again, there's going to be in July. It's almost like NBC said, once camp opens, we really need the NFL. It wraps up the last weekend in July.
Yeah. I'm
like, ooh, okay, I actually kind of like that better, and it's in California. I mean, we have to deal with July humidity and heat and everything.
Yeah. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I'm gonna miss the Olympics. I'll tell you that. Every night
I was late to the party.
Every night I was watching something. I mean, to watch the 4x100 or the 4x400 relays, I'm like, this is magnificent. This is unbelievable drama. It's just high level execution. These athletes are obviously world class. I mean, it's so much fun to watch. I was really into it. Really got into it this year.
You did not, because you were driving back, get to see the United States and Steph Curry.
Oh, I watched the highlights. And,
my gosh, the
what he
dagger of daggers.
Yeah, what he did was just he should be arrested. It was just an assassination. It was absolute. He was an absolute killer out there, an absolute killer, and I loved it. And what did LeBron say that this team is called? They're the Avengers.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you kind of are the Avengers. Just show up and to swat away everything that came in your direction. I mean, it was a lot of fun. They didn't dominate the way I think you wanted them to dominate, but man, to see Curry hit the shots that he was hitting, and I don't know if you caught the French play-by-play clip that was floating around.
Yeah.
The disbelief that they had in their voices that, oh no, he's done it again. He's an assassin, an absolute assassin. That was a lot of fun in the game. Yesterday was a lot of fun as well. I know a lot of hot takesmen were probably like sharpening up their tongue, ready to just pounce all over Team USA if the women's team failed to beat France. But they get over and they get the gold as well. So overall, I just think it was a fun summer games for Team USA and for all of us.
For all of us. And in this day and age where you get the social media and everything, we had a nice balance of, hey, look at this excellence, and hey, here is this athlete. She's a break dancer from Australia, and she's having a good time.
I was waiting for I'll be waiting for in 2028, I'll be waiting for Ozone and Kelly, Beat Street or Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. When is Spit going to show up and spray some graffiti on the side of a train? I'm waiting for that. That's the breakdancing I know and love. Not the thing that keeps popping up in my feed, the Australian breakdancer.
No.
That I don't know what that is.
That's flopping around like a fish.
That doesn't feel like breakdancing. I'll expect that competition to heat up a little bit when it hits LA in 4 years.
I'm going with a primo game here for week one.
Let's go.
I mean, look, I come down on the side that Friday nights should be reserved for high schools, Friday night lights, everything. But those days are over, folks. Yeah, too much money to be made. And how did the NFL get around this? By exporting the game. It's illegal to have it in the United States by that old rule. But, hey, this isn't here. It's in Brazil. Philadelphia and Green Bay in Brazil. Friday night, September the 6th. And the Eagles are favored by 1.5 points. Great game, right? Yeah, and you could see this going either way, right? Well, let's examine some numbers, including the playoffs last year. The Packers against the spread were 11-8. Remember, they started off slow. That's not bad. The Eagles, as you might expect, below 500 against the spread, 7-9-2. So why would I point to Philly here? It's very simple. They're the team with the pressure on them. They have to have this game. Can you imagine what Philadelphia sports talk would be like if they come out and flop week one? Kellen Moore is the perfect buffer for this team. I think they get off on the right foot, take the Eagles, and lay the 1.5 points.
I think there's so much talent on that team. There's just so much talent on that team, both sides of the ball. I mean, you essentially have the University of Georgia playing defense for you, and the weapons you have on offense, I think, are just, when they're clicking, they're just, and now Saquon, Sharkwan Sharkley is in the waters of Brazil. Yeah, I like the Eagles on 1.5 as well. Go ahead and scratch me down for that one, Gino.
We only disagree on one, so we picked so far. You and I both like Indy plus the 1.5 against Houston.
I do,
Home underdog, divisional game.
And I'll also say in the same breath, this isn't a week one game, but when the Texans play the Bills, I think the Texans are going to absolutely mop the floor with the Bills.
feels that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like Diggs is going to – it feels like they'll rally around Diggs. It feels like that's the game that the Bills will just look uncharacteristically bad.
Well, maybe, like, if they all of a sudden start force-feeding Diggs, I want to see that chess match.
It's in Houston. You know,
I'm worried about the safeties, Danger. I'm worried about the safeties. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's fair.
Yes, Damar Hamlin, great story. Damar Hamlin really has never been a starter in this league. Yes, he started at the end of that year.
Never forget the arrogance of Sean McDermott. Never forget the arrogance of this guy. This guy is so enamored with football players and the mentality and the right attitude and the hard work. And the one thing that he keeps forgetting to mention is the talent, the actual freaking talent. Because without that, you have a great group of guys that all love each other and all play for each other that can't get off the field because they're not talented enough to do it.
We were the only show that said, hey, all this Tyrell Shavers love, blah, blah, blah. Like, stop. Stop.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
Don't take coach at face value, how he's there and he's consistent. I look up the dictionary, he's consistent. There's Tyrell Shavers.
And that's all fine. You're okay, great. You like that guy. You like that player. But you know what? He's not as talented as what you had last season in 14. Or 13, for that matter.
The conclusion I can make on the wide receiver position going on with that, none of these guys are sticking for me, Danger. I think, like, you look at the waiver wire when everybody, last cut down, if there's somebody you think is better than whatever you would keep as your number 5, whether that's MVS or Hamler or Shaver.
It's ugly. It's ugly. So, yeah, when we get to week 5, I've already in my mind, I'm just like, oh, God, that's going to be bad. That's gonna hurt. That one's going to hurt because I just think Houston's going to take it personally. They're going to mop the floor with the Bills.
That whole stretch could be brutal because you got the Baltimore game right before that, and then you get the Jets on Monday Night Football, and you lost a freaking Zach Wilson last year.
Yeah. If it goes badly, I just what are the excuses? Are we saying it's the dead cap? Are we saying it's all the dead cap? That's hard because it is. It's you're trying to build a roster with one arm tied behind your back. You can't spend the kind of money you want to spend on the talent that might be available to you. You don't have all of the talent that other teams are going to have.
Just look. You don't have to compare yourself to Kansas City. Not at this point. Or Baltimore or Houston. You compare yourself to the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Patriots, and you punch your ticket that way. Very simple. You're not going to be the number 1 overall seed. Can we agree on that? Yes. Everybody nod your head. Yeah. No, this Bills team is not good enough to get the bye and then host throughout the AFC playoffs, okay, the way they're constructed now. But are they good enough to win the division, host the first game, and then we'll see where it goes from there? The answer is yes.
Well, let's get more on Saturday's disappointing outcome at Highmark Stadium from Ryan Talbot, who covers the team for NewYorkUpstate.com. There's a lot of notes to get to, and I know you'll mention it in your sports update. We do have a bit of Bills breaking news from this afternoon.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
Now, Shane Buechele has a neck injury. It's going to keep him out the rest of the preseason. Bills need themselves a quarterback. Josh Allen was the only healthy quarterback at practice today. Mitch Trubisky excused for personal reasons. I shouldn't say he wasn't healthy. So they brought in Ben DiNucci. Of course they brought in Ben DiNucci. Because he's Italian, Gino.
Oh, why did you make this move this late? He should have been in Rochester. We could have taken him to some fine establishment.
Yeah. There's plenty of great Italian. We take him over to Rocky's over here on J Street. We take him to any old school Italian restaurant. We let him just go to town. Ben DiNucci.
I take him to Agatina's.
Hey.
Buffalo Road.
Hey, Agatina's on Buffalo Road. Ben DiNucci, Agatina's. Ben DiNucci, Picoelli. Picoelli, Ben DiNucci. Of course they signed him because he's Italian.
Can you imagine, like, they're... Okay. All right. Brandon Bean's office. Sean, thanks for coming in. Pete Quelly, thanks for coming in. Oh, my gosh. We need to sign a quarterback. Anybody have any? Pete, who do you want? Yeah, let's get Ben DiNucci here.
Hey, Ben DiNucci, Picoelli, Ben DiNucci, Matt Parino, Ben DiNucci, Picoelli. Everybody happy? Yeah, we're all Italian.
Motherfucker.
Ryan Talbot next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
In need of a third quarterback, the Buffalo Bills are signing former Dallas Cowboy and Denver Bronco Ben DiNucci. This according to DiNucci's agent. Shane Buechele is out with a neck injury today. Mitchell Trubisky excused from practice for personal reasons. After only Josh Allen is the only healthy quarterback. Head coach Sean McDermott on keeping out Von Miller and Matt Milano.
Is this part of the plan with Matt and Von to just not have them go and then potentially later, or any types of setbacks or anything like that?
Yeah, medically for Matt, it's still part of the plan from the medical staff. And then Von, it's more, just managing his reps in the preseason. And we'll see how we go, how he goes and we go then moving forward week to week with it. And
Bills travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, joining us next. Rochester Red Wings back home tomorrow night, taking on Syracuse. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
All right, so much to unpack from Saturday's preseason opener against the Bears at Highmark Stadium. We welcome in Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. And not a lot of positives, a handful of positives, and news coming today that we'll see Ben DiNucci wearing Bills colors moving forward.
Talking with Ryan before, in addition to being Italian, Ryan brings up a good point. Ryan, thanks for your time here today. It's actually another connection here, another reason why.
There always is.
There always is. Ryan, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Yeah, and that reason why I think Ben DiNucci made a lot of sense for the Bills was he spent the entire offseason on Denver's practice squad in 2023, the entire season, last year. And Sean Payton was obviously the head coach of the Denver Broncos. That is Joe Brady's mentor. They worked together multiple years in New Orleans, obviously, when Payton was at the helm there. And, Brady's offense is very similar to that of Payton. So I think in terms of the terminology, the comfort level of getting a quarterback that's going to play significant reps in those last two preseason games, it made a lot of sense to find a guy that was going to know a lot of Joe Brady's system already without necessarily working under Brady before or playing with him before.
Well, some of us are a little upset that it was Ben DiNucci and not Nathan Peterman. We know he's out there as well. I'm only teasing. Ryan, have we seen the last of Josh Allen this preseason? What are your thoughts on him and his availability here week 2 and week 3? Do you think they'll put him out there at all?
Yeah, Allen seemed after the game like he was planning on playing against Pittsburgh. If he were, I think it'd be another very short amount of time on the field. I can't imagine him playing much longer than definitely not another quarter. I think it'd be even a half quarter at this point. You're just kind of risking it right now, especially when you've already seen, Shane Buechele suffer this injury. You saw how the offensive line fared without game planning. They were a bit of a disaster in that game on Saturday. So don't put your quarterback at risk in a meaningless game when you know what you have in him. I know there are certain teams that do it. Patrick Mahomes generally plays throughout the preseason. We know the results there. But there is no true correct method in terms of playing your quarterback.
Ryan, what you were in the press box on Saturday. What was the reaction? What was the feedback? Because we're all watching this like, wait a second, Josh Allen takes off, slides, mind you, but I don't think you want your quarterback running in the preseason. Was that Sean McDermott saying, okay, we don't need to see the rest of this drive. We've had enough here today? Yeah,
you could definitely see Josh Allen pleading his case before he was pulled on the field. Saying, he wants to finish this drive, but you kind of have to side with McDermott on that one. If you're scrambling, taking off, and sliding, which Allen hasn't necessarily mastered a great slide to this point, you're putting yourself at risk. He did his job. He showed a good connection with Khalil Shakir, got the ball off to Curtis Samuel a few times, did enough, I think, where Sean McDermott felt very good about what he saw. McDermott after the game said something about the look in Josh Allen's eye. You could tell that he was ready to play in that one, and that's one of the other reasons that he didn't see anything else from him. But I think at the end of the day, you want to protect your franchise quarterback, and that may have been enough right there.
Can we get that eye of the tiger with the Bills' offensive backfield? Because the run game was putrid, 3 yards per carry, and if you eliminate the quarterback runs, it was actually just under 1.9 yards per carry. Was that on the Bills' offense not up to the task, or did Eric Washington have a little bit of something special planned for the Bills as a new defensive coordinator there for the Bears?
It might have been a little bit of the latter. I mean, you saw the Bears running some stunts on plays where the Bills kind of came out post-game and said, we installed like 3 or 4 run plays. We weren't game planning for anything. And unfortunately, it showed in that matchup the way that the O-line could not open up any kind of holes for Ray Davis, James Cook, and company. And, some of that falls on the running back position because in this game, you do have to create some yards yourself at times.
Did we lose Ryan?
I think so. I'm showing he's still on there. Okay, we'll try to get him back here, Danger.
Okay. Yeah, plenty to get to when we have Ryan Talbot join us. Beside the run game, want to make sure we talk a little bit about the wide receiver competition, which we saw throughout the course of the training camp here in Rochester. What the future with MVS might look like. What about KJ Hamler, who muffed the kickoff in Saturday's preseason loss? So plenty to kind of dissect here from that loss on Saturday to hopefully get some answers as to what this team might look like here come week 1 against the Cardinals. We were talking about that run game, Ryan. I'm sorry.
No worries. I don't know when I got cut off there. It says I'm still on the line, so that was weird. But I just feel like the backs, there were no running lanes for them. The tackles, Deion Dawkins, as great as he is, Spencer Brown, as good as he was last year, they both struggled in that matchup. There was no push on the interior from Osiris Torrance, from Connor McGovern and company. So, when you look back at it, the backs need to create some yards on their own, but realistically, the O-line did them no favors at all.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest here in the Sports Bar. Ryan, as far as the wide receiver position, I mean, when we were at Fisher, this was all, shouldn't say all, but it was a main topic, right? The back end here. Have any of these guys made a name for themselves? Can we say that a few guys have already played themselves off the roster? Because I don't know if anybody stepped up coming out of that Bears game.
Yeah, a lot of the guys fighting for those roster spots certainly didn't help their case. You have MVS, who 1 target, 1 drop. That's kind of the story of his career with the drop issues. I know Sean McDermott gave a very passionate response about him today about, the limited time. He's still learning it, so he hasn't been as fast as what we're used to seeing. He has a good rapport with Josh Allen, so that and some guaranteed money to boot. So that probably helps him in terms of making this roster. KJ Hamler had a golden opportunity to make an impression, being listed as that top return guy. But in the receiving game, he had a bad drop. He had hands on it. You got to catch that ball. He had a muffed punt at one point. He did have one nice return, though, that deserves some credit for. But no one really stepped up on that back end. I thought Tyrell Shavers did a fine job, but didn't do anything necessarily to cement a job for himself either. So very quiet day for the receivers. I think part of that, though, had to do with Mitch Trubisky. It's Mitch Trubisky. You know what you're getting at this point. He holds the ball too long. After the initial reads are gone, he just drops it off too short, and you can dink and dunk your way up and down the field sometimes, but a lot of the times those drives stall. And then, Shane Buechele, kudos to him for gutting it out in terms of whenever he suffered that back injury, but he took 6 sacks, and some of those were on him, holding the ball or running out of the pocket too quickly, trying to do something. Maybe he had a little case of the happy feet. None of the quarterbacks after Josh Allen exited the game did much of note either.
Ryan, I want to go back to the special teams and the new kickoff rule. You mentioned Hamler with the muff on the kickoff. We saw Daquan Hardy as well. The guy that we haven't seen has been injured through the end of training camp here, and we will get to see him because he returned to the practice field today, and it's Ty Johnson. Do you think that we see Ty Johnson maybe returning some kicks or some punts for the Buffalo Bills, and was he the guy all along that maybe they wanted back there?
I thought it was always going to be Hardy personally, but Hardy struggled a little bit with that Buffalo win. You saw that he kind of caught it up at his shoulder as he was backtracking on the ball on his lone return. But Ty Johnson was always going to be in the mix because Hamler was, from the wide receiver perspective, a long shot to make this team. So Ty Johnson has the return ability. I don't want to say that he has lost his job as running back number 2, but Ray Davis has made a case to take over that job. So Now, if you want that game day jersey, if you want the Bills to carry 3 active running backs, Johnson's, main role can be return man, and then you can mix him in here and there on the offense, give him a few snaps. He showed what he could do last year offensively, but I think he could give a boost to the special teams unit as well.
Ryan, I know you and Matt talked about this last week a little bit on the Shout podcast, but going into that game, staying with the special teams, what was your level of concern with Tyler Bass? And coming out of this game, what are your thoughts on Bass right now?
In terms of the field goal kicks, they were both pretty pure, the 24 and the 49-yarder, so that was good. I'm not sure that on the kickoffs he was doing what the team had, was hoping for. It felt like he was just booting it too long. He wasn't giving the returners an option. You would think you'd want to see how your return team would handle some kick returns in live game action, so that left a little bit to be desired there. But in terms of his kicking on field goal attempts, I thought he did a nice job. The kickoffs were another matter. Same with the punting with Sam Martin. Starts out with a booming punt that gets down inside the 5, but then he shanks the next one, gives up some line drive kicks that allow for some decent returns. The special teams unit was kind of right there with the rest of the team in terms of a few bright moments, but a lot of bad as well.
Ryan, if there was a major positive to take away from Saturday's game, and I've been pretty critical of the Bills throughout the course of the offseason. I don't like a lot of the moves that they've made. I don't think a lot of fans like some of the moves that they made. But there was one move that they made this offseason. When they made it, I'm like, that's innovative, that's different. I don't hear other teams doing that, and that's actually an area where they need to improve, and they will improve because John Perry is up in the booth, and in Sean McDermott's ear, they go 2 for 2 on challenges, Ryan.
Yeah, that was not a strength of Sean McDermott's going into this season. So I thought the addition of Perry would help drastically. And you already saw it in the first preseason game. Challenges are not commonplace in the preseason. A lot of the times coaches keep them in their pocket. But I think it's good that Perry and anyone else up there that was watching those plays, they said, hey, let's challenge this. Let's get it some live reps. And sure enough, what they saw up above was correct. And McDermott goes 2 for 2. That, like I said, that's been one of the weaknesses of McDermott. He's challenged some baffling things in the past that, you watch and you say, I don't think there's any chance of this being overturned. He had a very low win percentage in those. So Perry comes in and all of a sudden that, they're batting 1,000, so to speak. So great start for Perry and this challenge crew.
Yeah, we're a little more than 2 weeks away from the final cutdowns, Ryan. I don't think it's too soon to start figuring out how this 53-man roster looks. And if we're going through the exercise, I'll ask you the question, what's the toughest one in your mind? I'm going to give you one that I can't figure out one way or another. What do they do with the third tight end? If they're going to run more 12 personnel, which we think they are, you're going to have a tight end that's going to contribute. And Morris nearly should have had a touchdown had Trubisky hit him, but Davidson kind of having a good camp so far. They don't keep 4 tight ends, do they?
I struggle to see how they would be able to do that. It's just so difficult. And I've heard theories of, well, you could cut it other places because you could technically use Curtis Samuel as a running back on your depth chart, but then you'd get rid of Ty Johnson, and that creates a hole at the kick return, punt returner game. Some people I've talked to said, well, what about Reggie Gilliam? Even if they don't use the fullback as much, which I'm not saying that they won't, he's still a core special teams member. So you kind of juggle all these things. I don't see any scenario where they can keep 4. And then, like you said, this leads to that very difficult discussion because I think Zach Davidson has a higher ceiling as a pure tight end, a pass-catching weapon. And we know that Dawson Knox has missed some time in his career. You're one injury away from needing another tight end to step up in those, 2 tight end sets. And I think Davidson would provide more for you there, but might come down to special teams. And again, Morris is just like Reggie Gilliam and some of these other guys. He's a core special teams player. So, I don't want to sit there and be in Brandon Beane's shoes at that moment, because if I'm going upside at the position, I'm going Davidson. If I'm going with overall, I might have to go with Quentin Morris. So these are the reasons why, these GMs get paid the money that they do and have to make the tough calls.
Ryan, was there a player that stood out to you on Saturday, specifically, one of the guys that we saw for more than just the starters reps? I look at a player like Dwayne Carter, who has been impressive throughout camp, and I didn't really see anything different, but that feels like he's going to be a guy that's a part of that rotation, that 4-man defensive tackle rotation when you think about how he came in for Ed Oliver after the first play of the game.
Yeah, so a few guys that stood out to me on offense, Cedric Van Pran Granger, he had the highest marks from Pro Football Focus. I went back and watched his stats, great snaps at the center position, did a nice job run blocking, nice job in pass protection, good audition for him. I thought Javon Solomon showed himself very well as a run defender. Everyone, has been talking about him being that situational pass rusher. He held his own as a, run stopper in that first preseason game. So I thought that was encouraging. And, the last two that I'll mention are both cornerbacks. I thought Kyer Elam played a very good game for the Bills, picking up where he's left off at training camp, as did Jamarcus Ingram. Ingram has a little bit of nasty to his game in terms of that right at the line kind of jamming receivers. You saw it against the Bears and threw a guy off the route entirely. He's been doing that at camp. He did it to Keon Coleman at one practice and knocked him down or knocked him back a little bit. So that's kind of part of Ingram's game. Ingram has really stepped up as well as one of those depth options at cornerback, where about a month and a half or so ago, I probably would have said that the depth of that position was one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah. Is there any particular area, Ryan, where you think it's deep enough right now that if the Bills were to be – we've seen Brandon Beane do this over the years. Like, okay, we're going to make a trade here, whether that's for a draft pick or I'm thinking maybe there's a wide receiver you want to go trade for, or certainly a safety right now. Do you believe right now that the offensive line, say, for instance, is deep enough that if there's a team that needs some help, I don't think you're moving Van Pran Granger. I don't think you would want to, but are there any candidates on this roster in your opinion?
Yeah, I think on the offensive line, like you noted, I actually have come away very impressed this summer with Will Clapp. I kind of had him as someone that I didn't think was going to make this roster. He's been a pretty solid addition on the second team, but how much are you going to count on this guy for in terms of where you're going to play him? Because you already have some youth along the depth there, and Alec Anderson, who can play all the interior spots. You obviously have Van DeMark, who can play the tackle spots. Van Pran Granger's coming on strong there. So I could see there being a market for a late round pick for a guy like Will Clapp that can help in terms of depth charts. Lyle Collins has not played well in Buffalo, but maybe you could convince a team that his experience, his reps could be valuable to their locker room. He's another guy. So I think they have enough youth and talent on that offensive line that maybe they could part ways with the veteran there.
And I know just because people will hear it and see it, and maybe by this time next week we're having this conversation again, should the Bills be looking for something more at backup quarterback than Ben DiNucci and Mitchell Trubisky?
My opinion on this position has been, if Josh Allen goes down, the season's over no matter who's coming in. I don't care if it's Ryan Tannehill, who's probably the best free agent available on the market. There are going to be some guys that have some starting experience in this league that are going to get cut in the next few weeks, like a Bailey Zappi. He's a young guy. You could bring him in, but he's more of a QB3 in my opinion. I think that the Bills have hitched their wagon to Mitch Trubisky. They signed him to a 2-year deal. They raved about him after his last stint. I think in terms of the backup position, without breaking the bank, he's about as good as you're going to get. But other than those nice Nick Foles miracle type stories, you don't usually see the backups come in and carry a team or help a team go far. I think if anything were to happen to Josh Allen, the writing's on the wall for this team.
Yeah, I don't even want to ask that question, Ryan, because then I'd be accused of jinxing it here. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, always doing a great job with Matt Perino on the Shout podcast. What is coming up on the website? When does the next Shout podcast drop, Ryan?
Yeah, we have a few articles already up on the DiNucci signing. We will have a podcast later today about what happened at practice, a little bit on the DiNucci signing as well. And then we'll have you covered all weekend as well, as we're both making the trip to Pittsburgh for the joint practice and the preseason game on Saturday night. So, we'll keep the Bills fans well covered going into this weekend.
Ryan, thanks for making that connection for us between Ben DiNucci, Sean Payton, and Joe Brady. Very valuable, and it keeps the streak alive in the NFL. It's not necessarily what you know, but it's who you know, and those relationships matter not just in the NFL but in life. So we look forward to seeing Plenty of Ben DiNucci and your coverage of it through the rest of the preseason.
Hey, thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
You got Ryan Talbot covering the Bills for NewYorkUpstate.com.
Yeah, and I think you can pencil in Ben DiNucci, as long as he doesn't fall flat on his face, for a practice squad spot.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And as far as the immediate future, you get a half of Ben DiNucci on Saturday.
Why not?
Why not?
It wasn't going to be Peterman. As much as we wanted to will it,
this is pretty good, though. This is a good consolation prize for the sports bar. I mean, it's almost like they listen to the show. Gwelly must listen to the show.
Heard it right there. It's like, wait a second. Those guys are talking about Ben DiNucci being available. Let's call him.
Of course he's a new Buffalo Bill, Gino, because he's Italian.
Ben DiNucci.
Hey, Ben DiNucci, Pete Gwelly. Pete Gwelly, Ben DiNucci. Meet Matt Perino. Matt Perino, Ben DiNucci. Ben DiNucci, Pete Gwelly. Out back we play botch. Good stuff from Ryan Talbot as always. Love having him on with us. Tomorrow, his co-host on the Shout podcast, Matt Perino, stops by 3:25, his usual Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, we'll also be talking to PJ Glasser, host of Send It In tomorrow. We're getting Lee Steinberg back on the show this week. Excited about that. Yeah,
Super Agent Lee Steinberg.
Super Agent, who, because there's always a Rochester connection, dated a girl from Rochester.
Well, he's one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's been to Rochester.
So, Rochesterian and Super Agent Lee Steinberg joining us on Wednesday. Happy Hour is next in the sports bar. More on this signing of Ben DiNucci to the Bills roster here for the preseason. And, of course, plenty to get to from Saturday's disappointing outcome at Highmark. This is the Bills kick off their preseason loss to the Bears. One-sided loss to the Bears. A couple of bright spots that we'll touch on as well. You have your thoughts. We would love to hear them at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Ace Swim and Leisure and BioGuard make it easy to be a pool expert because Ace Swim and BioGuard offer an easy-to-use system that delivers clarity, convenience, and confidence. BioGuard puts the pleasure back in your pool with premium products covering everything from sanitizers to shocks to algicide and balancers. Ready to use, simple to follow, easy to maintain. That's what makes it a BioGuard system. See Ace Swim and Leisure today, Childlight Avenue and Ridge Road, Webster.
McMillan Marine's model year blowout sale is going on now.
And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills bring in a quarterback today, signing former Dallas Cowboy and Denver Bronco Ben DiNucci. This according to DiNucci's agent. Bills needed a quarterback. Shane Buechele is out with a neck injury. Mitchell Trubisky today excused from practice for personal reasons. Josh Allen is the only healthy quarterback for the practice. Allen won't object to getting more work.
I'm assuming I'm going to go into it saying I am going to get reps, and if coach says no, then it's no, and we move on. But just making sure that I have that mindset of I will be playing, but yeah, who knows?
Well, the Bills travel to Pittsburgh on Wednesday. The joint practice with the Steelers coming up on Thursday. Wings back home tomorrow night against Syracuse. The 2025 Rochester Red Wings schedule is out. The home opener will be on April 1st. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Kick by Bass is up, and it is good.
I thought T-Bass getting T-Bass 2 kicks, one going each direction. He made them both. That's a positive.
Mike Danger.
They are a joke. They are an absolute joke.
Gene Battaglia.
This is where I slam on the brakes. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Every game is something that we want to win, and today we didn't do that. A lot to learn from. Again, it's preseason. I know we're not game planning for these games, but we got to be ready to go.
Our standard was not out there today. That's not how we play. There's a lot that we need to do to get ourselves ready to go here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Sean McDermott after the game on Saturday was mad. You could tell he was
steamed.
He was steamed. And
yeah.
and you know, part of that is because you lose the game. Part of that is because your team didn't perform up to the level of expectation as he laid out. But was he mad, as you suggest, that maybe Eric Washington and the Bears' new defensive coordinator, familiar obviously with McDermott, familiar with this Bills roster, maybe took advantage a little bit for the Bears' benefit against the Bills, who didn't game plan?
I'm wondering, and I went to the last Joe Brady press conference before Fisher broke camp, and he said it right out there in the open. We're not game planning, okay, for this game, all right? And that typically is the MO, right? We just want to look at our guys, do our thing. I don't even care who's lining up on the other side of the ball. It's kind of irrelevant at this point of the year. I heard that more than once, though, following the game. Like almost as an excuse.
Right,
like,
we didn't game plan. We don't game plan for these. It's almost as if to say, we don't game plan, but they did game plan.
Well, I would also point this out. I'm not saying McDermott wasn't. He has reason to be upset, though, beyond that.
Oh, sure.
I mean, my gosh. 11 penalties, 8 of them pre-snap? 8 pre-snap penalties. You're a professional. Know the damn snap count.
Yeah, that's
sloppy.
That's not going to fly with McDermott. It never does. What do they call them? Those procedural penalties.
That's what our guy Andre Fontenette, now the head coach at Gates Chili, calls them
administrative
penalties.
Administrative
right,
penalties. Love that guy. Yeah, you can't have those. And 11 total penalties for 75 yards for the Bills on Saturday. It was ugly. It was also a reminder that preseason football is far from pretty. It doesn't matter what team you root for. It's ugly for the most part.
Do we have selective memory when it comes to this stuff? Because we're all like, yeah, camp. And then we see camp. Yeah. We get to see it on the field for preseason. And then we always come out of it going, oh, my gosh. I don't want to wish August away, but get me to week 1.
Yeah.
That's enough.
No,
That's enough.
I'm with you. And now I view it through a different lens because this for me was exciting, bringing my daughter to her first NFL game and knowing that it was going to be Caleb Williams' first NFL game, a chance to see him. And that wasn't ugly, in my opinion. Like that look, and if you watch enough NFL coverage, I think Williams and I think Bo Nix are two guys that, as rookie quarterbacks, made the most of their opportunities. J.J. McCarthy as well in Minnesota. So some of the rookies showing up and gaining that confidence that you want them to gain at this time of the year in the preseason, making some plays, playing smart, and that for as ugly as preseason football can be, there at least is something there. And we remember what that feels like. You remember Josh Allen's rookie year. We talk about this play all the time. The game against the Browns, and Josh Allen just rips one into Rod Streeter at the back of the end zone, and our eyes popped out of our head because we haven't seen that. You don't know what that looks like.
You haven't seen 40 yards on a line the way Caleb Williams threw that dart. We all went, oh, was that the way in the stadium? What was it like?
Everybody, yeah. I mean, I was on the Bears side of the stadium, so I did have more Bear fans around me, admittedly, and everybody's like, oh, yeah. I mean, like, the screen to Swift was another one. It's like thought he was done. Nope, just kind of pops it out there to Swift, and Swift goes, almost takes it to the house.
Now, this is something different since we've started doing the show here. Just this very simple question. What is it like, even though it's a preseason game, in 2024, going to Highmark, wearing the opposing team's gear?
Saw a lot of Bear fans, especially on the Bears side of the stadium. Let's face it, this wasn't a hard ticket. There were plenty of seats available, and you could get good seats if you were willing to spend a few bucks. And a lot of Bear fans were in that vicinity that I was in. In fact, I had a couple of them that were singing the fight song after the field goals. I'm like, guys, let's calm down. It is the preseason. I know you're in regular season form always, but I did see a lot of Bear fan gear, a lot of Bear fans there, and you get the occasional snicker when I dropped my daughter off to her seat. She was sitting with her friend. I was sitting with my buddy, and we were sitting on the Bear side of the field, and she was sitting on the other side of the field, wrong side of the field to be wearing Bears gear, pal. Like, so there is some of that. I'll always remember going to the old Ralph. Was it the Ralph at the time, or was it New Era Field? I'm trying to remember. But I went for Jay Cutler's first game in a Bears uniform as well, and that was a preseason game against the Bills.
09.
And I remember sitting in the rock pile and getting just drilled. Everybody there, like, any shot they could take at the Bears, they were taking. And mind you, I'm taking this as a Bears fan, looking around being like, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but you're in the middle of a pretty significant playoff drive. Your team's not very good. At least I know who our quarterback is going to be. And, I think one of them actually said, yeah, Devin Hester, most overrated player in the NFL. I'm like, okay. Just anything to get under your skin. But Saturday wasn't like that, man. The vibes were immaculate. Even if you're a Bills fan and you're upset at the outcome of the game, you're not going to complain when it's 75 degrees and sunny and a little breezy. But I mean, it was a perfect day for football, a perfect day for tailgating. It felt good, and I'm sure a lot of people loved getting back into that routine. It was also Yacht Rock John's birthday. We got to celebrate that on Saturday as well. I wasn't able to get over to his tailgate in time. We were texting before, and I'm like, man, we're cutting a little close. My buddy's coming in from Syracuse, and I don't know that we're going to have time. It timed out perfectly. We didn't miss any of the game, but we would have missed part of the game, and he actually got into the stadium before we did.
Actually, I heard from the other source, traffic was bad. Maybe it was everybody coming down at the same time.
On the way there, a little bit slow. Yeah. On the way back, I left at halftime. Why stay for the whole game?
Right. Oh, you and everybody else.
Left at halftime and didn't have any issues with traffic. Zero traffic issues on the way home. In fact, home in time to throw some pizzas on the egg, host, my wife's college roommates, and we're having a good time, and we're drinking and we're eating and we're laughing. It was the weekend was sublime. And even though the outcome of the game wasn't fantastic, if you're a Bills fan, there's plenty to look at, dissect. You get the sense with Sean McDermott, and any time we've had a performance like this, there's usually a pretty swift turnaround by Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills.
Well, I mean, you compare that to what we're going to get 2 Saturdays from now, the final preseason game, Bills and Carolina. You're going to have Carolina. Bryce Young didn't play this week. I don't know if we'll see Bryce Young, but you'll get Jack Plummer or Jake Luton going up against Ben DiNucci.
Hey!
And if you're just getting your cut, like, what are you talking about, Ben DiNucci?
Hey! Ben DiNucci! Ben DiNucci! Newest Buffalo Bill. Of course they signed Ben DiNucci. He's Italian.
One of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have DeVito. We got DiNucci.
Oh, we got DiNucci. Ben DiNucci. It's a great signing.
There's that meme.
Don't even care.
Yeah. Ben DiNucci.
Yeah. Maybe we can get him to host Italian Carousel on a Sunday morning before kickoff.
Well, the latest Buffalo Bills scores.
Yeah.
From Buffalo.
From Ben DiNucci. Live reports from the sideline for Italian Carousel from Ben DiNucci. We can look and say, all right, who's out there, who's available. We know that you're not going to have Buechele for the rest of the preseason. Got a neck injury.
And they might just, come to some sort of settlement.
I mean, he looked lost in the moment. That moment looked too big for him. Just 6 sacks and a pick 6.
Bad.
In
really
less
bad,
than a half of play.
Yeah.
Not great. Shane Buechele seating, making way for Ben DiNucci, who, if you ask me, Gino, I've seen enough of Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, during these joint practices in Pittsburgh this week, will get enough reps in a controlled environment against a good defense. Why? Why put him out there?
Right. Like, if I'm a head coach, I am trying to figure out a way to do one of these scrimmages every year because Allen will get the work in, and he's wearing the red jersey, and you don't have to worry about anything. I'm sure there's always a little bit of fear, but no contact injuries here will be happening in the scrimmage. Side note, I was thinking this, like, could we ever get that up here? I don't think so.
The joint practices?
Yeah.
When was the last time they did? Cleveland, right?
Cleveland with Johnny Football came in.
He had the multiple fields. But that was that still Rex?
No, this is 2009. This is Jerron. That's how far back that was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Johnny Football. Oh, no, it wasn't Johnny Football. I got to look this up.
No, I thought that McDermott brought Cleveland here for a joint practice. Am I making that up?
You're making that up. I think they went there. We haven't, since we've been doing this show in 2016, we haven't had the joint practice. Part of it, I think, is because McDermott does not go on the actual Growney Stadium turf. Doesn't want to use the turf. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So maybe at some point, hey, can we put grass in that stadium? I don't know.
Well, I think that the timing of this works out perfectly for the Bills in that you've seen what you need to see out of Josh Allen. He can get the work that he needs to get on a practice field in a controlled environment rather than the chaos of Saturday night at Acrisure Stadium. Just put Trubisky and DiNucci out there and let it be for the rest of the preseason. I've seen enough. We've seen enough. We know what it looks like. You're going to be practicing every day.
How about we practice blocking in the run game? Yeah. Maybe that's what we need. I don't need Josh to hand the ball off. Trubisky can hand the ball off.
There's reason for optimism with Ty Johnson returning to practice today. That's good news for the Buffalo Bills. He was certainly missed. It was not a pretty outing for the run game for Buffalo. 77 yards, 3 yards a carry. And if you eliminate the scrambling and the quarterback runs, Josh Allen, Trubisky, Buechele, running backs accounted for 36 yards, just under 1.9 yards per carry against the Bears on Saturday. So Ray Davis, 5 carries, 2 yards. Yikes. So work to be done there, and you expect more from the offensive line. You expect more from the running backs. Expect more from Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Drop.
Another drop. A drop that would have been a first down. You're in a 2-minute drill in the first half. And look, Trubisky wasn't necessarily accurate. I feel like he missed a wide open Quentin Morris in the end zone that would have been nice. But, MVS, it hit him right in the hands. Hit him right in the hands. No excuse. Hamler muffing a kickoff. That's a tough look for somebody who's trying to latch on to this team.
Like, my takeaway from just the overall wide receiver / return is like, for the wide receiver, who's going to be the 5th wide receiver? Have any of these guys stepped up? We weren't buying the Shavers hype back at Fisher. Didn't look good on Saturday. I
think it will be Shavers, though. If you keep 5, Shakir, Coleman, Samuel, Hollins.
Hollins is on the team.
Yeah, and Shavers. I don't think MVS makes a team.
My point is, final cut data around the league. You mean to tell me you can't find somebody on the street that's better than Tyrell Shavers?
But he works so hard. He works so hard.
When I look
consistency.
Up, when I go to the dictionary, and when was the last time anybody went to a dictionary? You look up the word, and there And consistency is a picture of Tyrell Shavers.
You know what? We could Google that right now. I don't have a dictionary handy, but if I Google consistency, will Shavers' image pop up? There he is. Oh, my God. McDermott's right. He is a model of consistency.
I'm going to just do consistency, Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, there's Tyrell Shavers. Look at that. Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe that he's a threat to leave the practice squad. Like, if he doesn't make the team, he's on the practice squad, he's probably okay. And I know a lot is being made of Valdez-Scantling's relationship with Josh Allen and the guaranteed money that was committed to him. I'm sorry, man. Hold on to the football.
Yeah.
You have a teammate who's a model of that right now. Shakir looked like Shakir. Shakir looked good.
Shakir is dependable. Shakir isn't – he's not Steph Diggs.
He's not going to be flashy.
No, but in this offense, you can you just kind of get the first down here, maybe go down. Like, you can go to him in a pinch. Yeah, the rest of this wide receiving core right now. Coleman, you got to grade on a curve. I mean, he had some balls go over his head from Trubisky. And then Samuel, again.
I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think the top guys are going to be. We didn't see Hollins. Hollins returning to practice today as well. But, yeah, a lot to be desired from what we saw out of Trubisky, what we saw out of Bichelle, obviously. And you want more out of MVS. And you certainly don't want KJ Hamler putting the ball on the ground for a kickoff, which is what happened. So, and I appreciate Ryan Talbot joining us last hour, pointing out the connection. Like, we could sit here and talk about Ben DiNucci and be like, hey, you know what? There's always a connection in the NFL. Like, who are they looking at and why would they bring him in? And we were laughing earlier this afternoon that, you know, if you wanted to make the Bills feel better about themselves, the way you do it is by signing Nathan Peterman. You sign Nathan Peterman, you let him go out there and be a preseason hero for the team that drafted him at this advanced stage of his career.
What is it, Peaches and Herb?
Reunited. Yeah.
And it feels so good.
Well, McDermott loves him some Nathan Peterman. We know that. Never forget the arrogance of Sean McDermott. Never forget. Nathan Peterman starting week 1 over Josh Allen in Baltimore. Never forget. But, yeah, it turns out Peterman isn't familiar with this Buffalo Bills offense. This is a Joe Brady offense.
Joe Brady, who did Joe Brady learn under? Well, before he was in New Orleans under Sean Payton. And Sean Payton kept Ben DiNucci all last year on the practice squad. And since there's this massive overhaul of quarterbacks in Denver, well, DiNucci was not brought back. Maybe not for reasons, that had anything to do with him, but he was on the street. But if the Sean Payton offense, kind of similar in a way to the Joe Brady offense, the learning curve, what this means, Danger, is do you see like a half of football from Ben DiNucci, even though he just signed today?
Yes, you do.
Wow.
Yes, you do.
Listen anyway, Saturday night here on The Fan.
He can absolutely pick it up. If the terminology is similar, you meet with him a couple of times, you get him out on the field, yes, Ben DiNucci gets at least a half of football.
Boy, that's the thing. Like, wouldn't you want all your coaches to devote the time the guys will actually be here and help you win games come September the rest of the season? But they're going to have to burn calories trying to get Ben DiNucci up to speed.
Hey, Ben DiNucci. Don't worry, Ben, if you're looking for something to do Sunday morning because you're not playing for the Bills, we have Italian Carousel. You can give us the latest NFL scores.
Sometimes, though, guys get chances I don't understand because if you're excited about Ben DiNucci, I remember this Sunday night game against the Eagles. I'm just watching this like, oh, my gosh, this is hilarious because it's happening to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They don't have a quarterback here, and they're bringing this kid in.
It was rough. His time in Dallas was rough. And hopefully he doesn't. You don't have to tap into the talents of Ben. If something has gone terribly, terribly wrong, if Ben DiNucci is starting games in the NFL.
So our position here in the sports bar is officially Josh Allen. We're done here.
Yeah, normally I would be like, I want to see more of him. But I think the way this sets up for the Bills works out in their favor for preserving Josh Allen and while also preparing him for week 1. I don't need to see him anymore. We saw him for a quarter. He looked good. You get him in a practice, in a controlled setting with the joint practice of Pittsburgh, he'll get plenty of reps against a first-team defense. Great. Fantastic. Why run him out there on Saturday night? You don't have to. And then Carolina? Come on. Stop. No. We've seen enough. We're good. I don't think we need to see him. Now, that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, and Josh Allen will be the first to say, yeah, I'm going to prepare as if I'm going to go out there. I want to go out there. He wanted to finish that series. He got pulled. 1 quarter, you're done. Yeah, I think it was the scrambling. I think the scrambling was it.
Well, we talked to Nate Geary and Ryan Taylor. We're like, okay, wait a second. Because when they say, let's see about a quarter, normally you get to finish out the drive. And, okay, we've reached the end of the first quarter, which coincidentally, the last play of the first quarter was the scramble. And we come back. Wait a second, Allen's sitting down? What happened here? Well, the rest of the starters were out there, and the body language between McDermott and Allen wanted to stay out there, but I'm sure Sean McDermott, hey, this is the worst-case scenario here. Here's what could happen. I'm totally fine with McDermott pulling him out when he did. Every Bills fan should. And if you're upset that Allen may not play Saturday night against Pittsburgh or against Carolina, I'm sorry.
Also, if you're just in general upset at the outcome of Saturday's game, or you're upset with the direction of the franchise, or you're worried about this season, rest easy, Bills fans, because there will always be at least one team in the division that is more dysfunctional than you.
Yeah. And your top story from the Jets today, number 2 is that the quarterback has a book coming out. That's really keeping your focus. The guy who actually said we need to eliminate all this distraction and nothing that has to do with football needs to go out of the room.
Read my book.
Here you are, like the month leading up to the season, a book is coming out. We got to drop snippets about you and daddy and all your daddy issues, you moron.
And he didn't, regrets using the turn of phrase that, yes, I've been immunized. But not for the reason why you would think the guy, whatever. I mean, we're so tired of Aaron Rodgers.
Right,
stuff.
but that's not even the top story today. Let's revisit March, shall we? And a team that kind of disappointing last year, but a guy who is really good. Okay, there's only 2 guys in the NFL that each of the last 4 years have had at least 10 sacks. You said T.J. Watt? Nope. Remember, he got hurt that 1 year. One being Myles Garrett. He's really good. The other guy being Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick, Philadelphia Eagles. And Reddick's representation said, we want a new contract. The Eagles biting the bullet saying, we can't do that. But you know what? Would you go somewhere else? Sure. The Jets trade for Hassan Reddick. But then they don't give the guy the contract. Like all of a sudden, hey, you're in New York now. You're going to want to be here. Well, nothing has changed, okay? Hassan Reddick still wants the contract. And today, Hassan Reddick finally said, you know what? Trade me.
Trade me.
Get me out of here. It was never a trade me with the Eagles. It was I want a new contract. That's not going to happen. Why would the Jets trade for somebody that wants a new contract and then not give the guy the contract? What did you think was going to happen? Tell me. So, of course, Joe Douglas has to put out a statement today to save face.
We're not going to trade him. We've made it clear we're not going to trade him.
Okay. Then I guess he's not playing for you then.
Yeah, it's puzzling, man. The Cowboys are doing Cowboys-like things again. We've been through this so many times with the Cowboys as well, right? Dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things. I mean, if it wasn't CeeDee Lamb, it was Dak. And if it wasn't Dak, it was Zeke. And if it wasn't, go back to Emmitt Smith. I mean, there's always been somebody holding out for the Cowboys. It's an annual occurrence. It's an evergreen storyline in the NFL. And the Jets, it's very Jets of them to make the trade, have the player be so upset, I want to be traded. I'm requesting a trade. We're not going to trade you. Okay. I'm not going to show up.
Like, do you think Brandon Beane took the temperature with Philadelphia and okay, Reddick? Of course he did.
They scouted that guy. I remember him coming out of Temple and thinking, he's good. That one's going to be a good one.
Yes, but it's like the Ayuk deal. And the Ayuk deal is different in this regard. The teams that are involved that were, kicking the tires there, it wasn't the compensation. It was like, hey, we traded this guy. We're going to have to give him a new contract. Here's your new contract. I don't want it. Okay, then I guess there's no trade. So now the latest report is that Ayuk is talking back to the Niners. Shocking.
Right.
Let's just try to save face here if you're both sides. So shame on the agent.
He's going to swallow his pride, take far less than what he believes he's worth to stay with the team. that he probably feels is doing him an injustice.
Yeah, so for all this talk of, okay, how could the Bills lose the division? Look at the Jets. And yes, the Jets do have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but they're dysfunctional the way that they're run. You're in that Jet locker room and you're wondering, why did we trade for this guy? You're on the Jet offense like, oh, great, our quarterback is putting out a book.
I don't think Robert Saleh is a very good NFL head coach. I think Joe Douglas is probably a decent NFL GM. This was sloppy, but I have a feeling that this is all above these two guys. Don't you get the sense when
Woody Johnson was like,
that's
trade
right,
for him? Yeah.
That's right. Don't you get the sense that Woody Johnson and his crazy big necklace bling that he wore, just at the like that guy he's in charge and he wants to make sure he's in charge and you're going to do what I tell you to do to make me happy. And I'm sure a lot of owners are like that. But you also have to be able to say to them, honestly, we're football guys. Let us do the thing. We'll handle it. I want to give Douglas credit. I want to believe that Douglas is not as inept as they look right now. I believe Robert Saleh is a good defensive coordinator, but I think he's a deer in the headlights when it comes to being a head coach in this organization, in this situation. Maybe it's different somewhere else, but he had to know what he was getting himself into. No excuses. You joined a dysfunctional organization. It's a mess, an absolute mess, and now Reddick wants a trade. Oh, well, the play on the field might be putrid, but the storylines are juicy.
Oh,
they're
fantastic.
just good drama, just juicy.
They don't win in San Francisco opening Sunday night, do they?
I don't think so.
No.
We'll get to that game, right?
Oh yeah. You want that one tomorrow?
We can do that one tomorrow.
Well,
sure.
We'll pick it against the spread, of course.
Right.
The game we picked today, Green Bay, Philadelphia. Oh, you're not going anywhere near this for Survivor. Philadelphia is favored by 1.5, and that looks like kind of a trappish game. Like, wait a second. Green Bay finished hot. Philadelphia did not. Philadelphia, there's some drama. Green Bay, up-and-coming team, and Danger and I are both saying, who's got the more pressure? It's Philadelphia.
And they have more talent. Yeah. I mean, like, Jordan Love is nice. I know he's making more money than anybody else, but give me Jalen Hurts. I still think Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback. I think Saquon Barkley is awesome. I think A.J. Brown and
Devontae Smith
they're fantastic. They have so much talent.
If they had a real head coach, Danger.
No. Maybe they do. He just doesn't know how to deal with his quarterback. Maybe you need
that's a prerequisite to being a good
I think what
coach.
they need, though, I think if he's back on the sideline, I think Big Dom, if Big Dom is back on the sideline, everything will be okay. Because you know what? Because he's Italian, Gino. Let's get to a round of shots next.
The Olympics. We put a bow on this, and we'll kind of tell you some of the stuff you may not know. We've got we're on deck now. United States coming up in 2028. Golf, what a weird ending. Matt Kuchar, not a good guy, and we've got our first AP poll out for what it's worth.
Okay, we'll get to that and more next. A round of shots coming up. Last call before 6 o'clock. You can have the final say, the final word in the sports bar when you join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Don't forget, you can engage with us on X at The Fan Rochester. We're streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch, our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. Starting Thursday, the video stream will also be available on Elon's Twitter, on X, at The Fan Rochester. And, of course, the free-to-download Odyssey app is where you can get all things The Fan Rochester and the sports bar. We encourage you to download it for free.
You're listening Sports Update.
In need of a third quarterback, the Buffalo Bills signing former Dallas Cowboy and Denver Bronco Ben DiNucci. This according to the agent of DiNucci, Shane Buechele. He is out with a neck injury, could be for the rest of the preseason. Mitchell Trubisky today excused from practice for personal reasons, and meant that only Josh Allen was the only healthy quarterback at today's practice. Bills traveling to Pittsburgh on Wednesday, the joint practice with the Steelers on Thursday. Preseason game number 2 coming up Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Our coverage will begin at 5 p.m. here Saturday here on the Fan Rochester. The Wings are off tonight. They're back home tomorrow as Syracuse will be coming to town. The 2025 Wings schedule is out. The home opener against Lehigh Valley, that will be on April the 1st. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, the Fan Rochester.
Epic victories, heartbreaking defeats. No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan, Rochester.
Not going to lie, as excited as I am for NFL football to be back, I'm kind of sad that the Olympics are over. They were beginning to become a part of my ritual, my routine. It was a nice next option to have if I didn't like the baseball game that was on or if I wasn't interested in it.
Yeah, for me, I like it live. I thought it was really cool when we're watching the United States come back against Serbia while our show was going on.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But as you mentioned, it is over, and the handoff to the United States that was celebrated, of course, with Tom Cruise jumping off the stadium in Paris, along with performances in L.A. by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, Billie Eilish. The opening ceremonies for the L.A. Games will be a little bit earlier, July 14th, 2028. Good job by NBC moving it up before football. SoFi Stadium, by the way, will turn into the Olympic swimming venue.
Now, so is the track not going to be SoFi? SoFi is...
They're going back to the Coliseum. So which, look, it's not in the best neighborhood, the L.A. Coliseum, where USC plays, but it's been the host of the 84 games. I want to say, what was the other year, 32? This will be the third time that stadium, and it still works here. You know, it still has the Olympic cauldron.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's awesome. God, I can't wait. I mean, I guess maybe that's what it was. It was just like, oh, yeah, we all want the same thing when it's all said and done. We have pride in our country. We all want the same thing. We want to see winners. We believe in these athletes when they go over there and they represent the red, white, and blue. Man, watching some of the relays and the track and field, watching Team US, watching Steph Curry just assassinate the French in that finals.
By the way, France, when they did the handoff to the LA mayor and people are whistling, which you would know, that's the equivalent of booing over there. Very, very classy.
Yeah. Well, look, I think in a world where there's a lot of division, and this is still the thing that unifies us. It's competition. It's greatness. When you see it, you know it, and you can't help but be proud of it. And I was really proud of how Team USA as a whole represented us on the world stage. I thought it looked great. I thought they did great, and looking forward to 4 years from now.
Yeah, maybe we can sneak a trip out there. I mean, it is before camp. Assuming camp would still. I'm trying to. What will the world look like in 2020?
We have Odyssey has properties in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We could do the show from Los Angeles.
There we go. Yeah,
we'll start working on it now.
Yeah, get to work on that. United States finished with the most overall medals, 126, but they were tied with China for the most golds with 40. One of those golds came dangerously close to being a silver. U.S. women's basketball team on Sunday holding on by 1 point against France.
Yeah, boy, when I saw China do what they do in diving and basically sweeping all of the diving medals, whoa, or all the diving gold, I should say. Just impressive, and I'm like, oh boy, where is Team USA going to be able to match the amount of gold that China has? And yeah, that U.S. women's basketball final, the gold medal match, was an entertaining one. Probably a little bit closer. I know a lot of hot takesmen were probably sharpening their tongue, ready to lash out at the women's basketball team for not including Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
See, you guys didn't deserve to win. You didn't bring the best player in the game with you overseas there, did you? No. They get the win. You can't complain about the result.
Acting like a tourist, speaking of, this past weekend was Caitlin Clark. She was in the Bronx taking in a Yankee game, wearing the jersey and hat. She got to meet Aaron Judge. after the hiatus. Now, this is weird. This feels like way too long. It's been 3 weeks. The WNBA starting back up Thursday. Clark and Indiana back on Friday. As for the Yankees, it's must-win night tonight.
That's right.
They've faced the White Sox in Chicago. Luis Gil taking the mound for New York. New York is minus 310 on the money line.
Staying away from that, but I am taking the over on team total runs for New York at over 5.5.
We had ask PJ Glasser because he warned us we would see lines like this. Like, what is the record? Like minus 310?
Yeah. If you heard a giant sigh of relief from the west side of town, that was me when the Cubs didn't lose to the White Sox the last 2 games.
Yeah. Well, Jameson Italian got roughed up, and your boy here didn't do too well.
You just can't lose to this. Don't lose to this team. You cannot lose to the White Sox. It's a mark. It's a scar. It's a scarlet letter. You can't lose to this team. If you want to be considered a good team, take care of the White Sox.
Golf wrapping it up here with the points, and Matt Kuchar is a jerk.
Oh.
Did you hear what he did here?
No, I don't know anything about this. What happened?
So he's playing the final group on 18, okay? He's not going to win.
This is at the Wyndham?
The Wyndham. Yes, the Wyndham. It's Sunday. It's on CBS, okay? He had the right to do this. This was his choice. Everybody else finishes up. He drives it. Nope, it's too dark. I can't see. Now, again, tournament officials gave players the option of finishing play. Kuchar was the only golfer to mark his ball in the 18th fairway and call it a day. Jim Nantz, classic, quote, something I can't recall ever seeing before. He's going to come out here tomorrow. I don't think anybody's going to be here to watch it. I don't expect we're going to be bringing you the coverage tomorrow. Aaron Rai of England winning the event. Kuchar finishing out the hole today with a par. And he apologized for bringing back all the workers.
Yeah, that's a jerk move. If you're in contention and there's something riding on it, but was he in contention?
No.
So I can't see. I can't play under these conditions.
Yeah.
I'm coming back tomorrow.
You lost. Yeah.
Yikes.
For what it's worth, we have our first AP college football poll. This used to mean everything, right? And now it's like, oh, come on. Georgia is going to start on top, 2nd year in a row. They've done that, followed by Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. Ole Miss is 6, rounding out the top 10, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, and Mike Danger's Florida State Seminoles.
Now, you say that. That's because that's the team that I'm playing my dynasty mode in college football 25.
Right. Mike Danger's Florida State Seminoles.
Well,
how far have you gotten?
This is inaccurate because I've already won back-to-back championships as the head coach of the Florida State Seminoles.
Come on, you coward. Like, pick a team that's actually tough.
I've taken top 20, I've had a top 25 recruiting class. And, we're grooming the young the redshirt freshmen.
Are you staying up till 3-4 in the morning playing this?
Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah. And here's because I'm such a responsible parent, my daughter, my oldest daughter, is into it now too. She's like, she picked up the sticks the other night and she's like, what's this setting do? What's this gameplay menu? And I'm like, oh, that's if you want to create your own player and play as that player through a college career. She's like, I want to do that. I'm like, knock yourself out, kid. And so she named her quarterback Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
And Dalton Kincaid is the starting quarterback for the Michigan Wolverines as a freshman. He's a freshman quarterback, came into the Michigan Wolverines.
She chose Michigan?
Well, Michigan gave the opportunity for him to play right away. He wouldn't have to back up anybody. He wouldn't have to redshirt.
Okay.
She went where the opportunity was.
I was going to say, that's kind of like a taboo in your family.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But she's also seen firsthand that not everything happens according to plan with Penn State. Like, you could be a highly touted prospect from our region even and go to Penn State and not sniff the field. Things happen.
Yeah. I know.
Things happen. Yeah. So she took the opportunity, even though it was with Michigan. She's like, okay. So Dalton Kincaid, she likes that name. She's like, that's a good football name, isn't it? I'm like, it's a great football name. Dalton Kincaid is a great football name.
Was that the tipping point? Like, okay, we could draft this guy or this guy, Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a good football name. So yeah, you can tell me all about this AP college football poll. I'm living in my own fantasy world, dude. I'm telling you, I'm dominating.
During the commercial break, we're gonna take calls next break. Last call 866-4326. Our guy Pete called, but he couldn't hold him. Like, Pete, we just went to break. Oh, he's cooking dinner, right? Of course, wants to vent about the Jets.
Ha!
Look, we talk a lot of Bills on this show, but last call is kind of for you where you can talk about anything, and it's like you're a Jeff fan like Pete. I'm sorry.
Well, Pete is multi-platform, so he can call us, but he can also reach out to us on X, and I know he just did. So we'll review some of what Pete believes here as a Jets fan is going on with Hassan Reddick requesting a trade. It's Jets preseason, kind of the way it always goes, right? You've always got some kind of distraction happening there. We'll get to that and more next. Last call at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN.
Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call where you have the final say in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. Happy to talk to you at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN, or you can engage with us on X. You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, where we stream live every afternoon. Also on Twitch, twitch.tv/The Fan Rochester, and the free-to-download Odyssey app. Pete is one of our regulars reaching out to us on X, also a Jets fan. Here's my thoughts, bullet point form. I'm cautiously optimistic that JD and Salah know what they're doing. I agree with Mike Danger that Johnson meddles too much. Point 3, it's not a great look, but it doesn't have to ruin the season. It's all fair. I think Salah is a deer in the headlights. I don't think Douglas is a bad GM. I think Douglas is a GM that works for an owner who's meddlesome. And so without him realizing, it looks like a bad GM. Like, Douglas probably wants to work out a deal for Hassan Reddick that makes sense.
So why come back guns blazing and just put out that statement?
Because that's what the
owner
wants you to do. That's how owners operate. We're not going to tolerate this. This is a smear on our good image. We have to fight back. It's no different than what you see Jerry Jones do in Dallas. And even if he tries to backpedal, he doesn't really backpedal. He just kind of doubles down on what he's saying. We're not in a rush. We're not going to get a deal done with CeeDee Lamb. It's not something that they want to do. And this is what dysfunctional teams do all the time. The Cowboys do this every year. The Jets always have these distractions. It never changes. It starts at the top. It always starts at the top.
Special day today in the sports bar because we opened up like, hey, wait a second, Bouchel, Neck, Bills needed a third quarterback. We go over the list. Barkley, Peterman, ooh.
Oh, I was excited for a second there.
And we bring up the name Ben DiNucci.
Hey, Ben DiNucci. Of course the Bills signed Ben DiNucci, Gino, because he's Italian. Going to be out there slinging cutlets. That's our guy on Saturday.
What a missed opportunity. Ben DiNucci could have been at Fisher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
would
have brought Joe Capogreco over to training camp to interview Ben DiNucci instead of us. I would have handed the baton off. Joe, this is Ben DiNucci. Ben DiNucci, Joe Capogreco.
Live from Buffalo Bills training camp, Ben DiNucci, I guess.
Joe Capogreco, Ben DiNucci. Ben DiNucci, Joe Capogreco. Yeah, it would have been magic.
Did Picuelli stick his nose in here?
Hey, Picuelli, Ben DiNucci, Picuelli. Who's the interview with today? Matt Parino. Oh. That makes a lot of sense. We were trying to figure out why Ben DiNucci and Ryan Talbot, who joined us last hour, pointing out, okay, if you want to connect dots, because there's always a connection, the connection here is Joe Brady basically cutting his teeth in the NFL under Sean Payton. Sean Payton in Denver had Ben DiNucci on his practice squad all last year.
Yeah, and there are similarities apparently between the Denver offense and what Joe Brady is running here. So what this tells me is, Danger, Josh Allen, do you expect Josh Allen against the Steelers Saturday night? I don't. You have the joint practice. That will be good enough for his week worth of work. You may see a full half, maybe even more of Ben DiNucci coming up Saturday night.
Yeah.
Which, that's not ideal that the guy was just signed, but okay, we don't need to see Josh Allen out there. Maybe,
that's right.
Yeah, maybe you give Trubisky the first half, DiNucci the second.
I would be totally fine if we didn't see Josh Allen until week 1 against the Cardinals. I'm totally fine with it. And normally that's not how I feel, but I think this works out in the Bills' favor from a timing and a scheduling standpoint, that with the joint practices in Pittsburgh, they didn't have that last year.
No, they did not.
With the joint practices, you have Allen going up against a first-team defense, but it's a controlled setting. You can get those reps against a good defense and know that your quarterback is not going to get injured, or you would hope would not get injured. You're throwing a game day situation. It's completely throw everything out the window. Who knows? And we believe that's why Josh Allen didn't complete that series. He goes scrambling, slides, and McDermott's like, all right, that's enough. See ya. Get over here. Well, Coach, I wanted to finish this. Nope. Go to timeout.
What did Gary say? It's like with your kid. Okay, we do this one more time. We're going home.
That's right. That's right.
Josh, you're going home.
That's right. And that's enough. And I've seen enough. And I think most of us know what to expect come week 1. Do you need to see it against Carolina? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, I think they've gotten enough now where if week 1 was coming up on Sunday, we would be ready. I think we would be okay. I mean, the team might not be ready. They might still have some bugs to work out, obviously, based on the performance we saw on Saturday. But as far as the quarterback is concerned, keep him healthy, seal him up, and unleash Josh Allen come week 1 against Arizona.
Tomorrow on the show, as you mentioned, Matt Perino.
Hey!
Talking about Ben DiNucci.
Hey, Matt Perino, Ben DiNucci, Matt Perino.
PJ Glasser, send it in. BetQL Network will be stopping by, too.
We'll get some winners. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com was great last hour. We also spoke with Nate Geary, as you mentioned, Gino, from the Buffalo Bills Radio Network and our Odyssey Sports sister station, WGR. Find those conversations wherever you get your podcasts. Search out the Sports Bar, and that includes the free-to-download Odyssey app. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.